Ooh, it's November 21st, the spookiest time of the year. Ooh, ooh. Hello, hello. Welcome to the stream. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and do this thing that I've decided to do today. Yeah, I opted to, as I adjust like in 12 different ways on my desk chair. Yeah, I don't know. I was like, I'm gonna draw a new avatar real quick so that I can stream with. Because if you've been following my Twitter or my Tumblr, I've been real back and forth on my art lately, and lately I've been like, I'm gonna redraw myself insert 12 more times. So yeah, so new little blob, got his little book out, got a gun, because I gotta have a gun, and then of course my trusty bayonet, which is with me on every model, every PNG tuber I have made and ever will make. You bat your art respectfully. You bat your art around like a cat with a cat toy. Yeah, that sounds about right. That is 100%. That is accurate. I am wildly inconsistent in tone. For like 2 days, I was doing nothing but like waking up and drawing the most like weird fucked up nonsense, and then like the day afterward I was like, I feel exceedingly gay, and I'm gonna spend the entire day redrawing my self-insert for the sole purpose of like kissing an imaginary boyfriend. Remember when you did Vaporwave? Hell yeah, I do. It gave me horrible eye strain, but it was fun. Are you evolving? I'm like evolving in like a lateral direction. I'm not like evolving into something better. I'm just moving from like thing to thing to thing. It's my nature as a changeling shape-shifting blobular thing. Digivolve down a bit to spam stat gains. And Digi-de-evolve, yeah, that's true. I'm basically that kind of works if you think about it. I'm basically a Digimon. My base form is just a little blobular thing, and then the further we go on, the more like weird it gets. Give it some time. I'll have like a fat titty armor lady with like 6 arms and a dragon tail and like 3 heads, and I'll just be like, yeah, this is me now. This is my 3rd or 4th Digi evolution. You'd evolve to get better permanent stat gains and max levels over time. And go mon. I look forward to Titty Armor Dragon Tail Dunwich. Go! Titty Armor Dragon Tail Dunwich. Alright, so, what do I have here? What do I have? I have this book of Penny Dreadfuls. I picked it up from the bookstore. My copy kind of looks like shit. It's a little torn up. But I got it for like $5, and I was like, oh my god! Holy shit! Okay, when I bought this book, I also bought a Fresno Nightcrawler sticker, and for the longest time, I couldn't find the Fresno Nightcrawler sticker that I bought. And I just opened the book to a random page, and I found my fucking Fresno Nightcrawler sticker. Can I look that up? Can I find like the exact one? Here, I'll take you guys with me as I search to see if I can find the Fresno Nightcrawler sticker that I bought. I do like this one with the butt though. I like the art of like super caked up Fresno Nightcrawlers. There it is. This is the one. This is the sticker. I bought this sticker when I bought this book. And I couldn't find it for a long time. Oh my god. I can't believe it was here the whole time. I have checked this book. You don't understand, like, I have checked this book multiple times to see if the sticker was in there. It's somehow, I just found it. Oh my god, that's great. Holy shit, we're off to an amazing start. Oh boy. Okay, hold on a second. I just realized over on the... There we go. Let me get myself in my chair more oriented for when I come back over there. Fortune favors the blob. Oh boy. Okay, so I haven't streamed in a hot... Okay, so yeah, so I was talking about the book. It's a fucked up copy. It doesn't look good, but like whatever. I really love Hairy Blob. They're just... It's just a blob, but with other blobules coming off. It's just... I believe the scientific term is doodly bobbers. I just have doodly bob. This is just basically the head of the character that I've been drawing lately, and I was just like, yeah, this works. I can simplify this down to the most base element. But yeah, so I picked up this book. I picked up other books. I did want to get back to streaming at some point, but I was feeling so creatively burnt out for a long time, and I just did not have it in me. But I really wanted, I wanted to get back to it. I wanted to do it again. I want to do it. I want to get back to it. I want to do it. I was missing it. I was missing it, but I felt like asking is rude. Aw. Nah, that's okay. Bleh. Do those blobules grow like cell division? Sure, why not? Yeah, sure. I reproduce asexually. We they thems can do that. It's one of our powers. Self-fracturation. I did so in my never-ending quest of reinventing myself every goddamn week, there was a point in time where I did actually like make myself a single cell organism. I think what was it? No, it was a tardigrade. I made myself like a tardigrade and I made a bunch of like single cell organism characters. And then that lasted for like a week or two, and then I was like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I am nothing if not wildly inconsistent. The curse of ADHD Island. I have dual citizenship to ADHD Island and OCD Peninsula. I'm mostly I was born and raised in the OCD Peninsula, but every now and then I go to visit the ADHD Island so that I can continue to destroy myself. Anyway, what did I have anything else? Did I have any? You've got emotions? Now they're tragic. Guess what? Now they're tragic. So yeah, trying to think if I have anything else to share. Like I said, I was just creatively burnt out for a while, so I didn't stream. I've still been collecting books. Okay, so after the last Goosebumps book stream, I was really starting to kind of burn out on those, and I was starting to like collect a bunch of Goosebumps books I knew I was never going to read on my own time. So I opted to take a lot of the middle school horror stuff that I had, and I just kind of took them all to the library and I just donated them because I was like, these are technically kids books, and I'd rather let the kids have them. I'd rather have the library let the library have them. Because excuse me, power slam them into the donation to help kids. Power slam your books into the donation slot so you can help kids in your neighborhood. Punch them directly in the mouth with a copy of I can't think of a kid's book. I can't think of a kid's book right now. Well, hey, this is my announcement. Anyway, all right. I like how before my stream started, I was like, I better try to keep this on point so that I just don't ramble for 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes without any kind of aim or goal or saying anything. Let's see. I am inflicted with terminal sleepy boy disease. I'm tired, and it's probably because I've been up until like 2 a.m. watching Star Trek and Defunct Land documentaries. That and what else was I watching? I can spell. Yeah, I started watching like old Are You Afraid of the Dark? What is all this new stuff? What the hell is this? I don't know what this is. Where's like the old? What if I hit classic? Yeah, there we go. This man's been jokered. But yeah, so I started watching this, and it's this show used to like scare the shit out of me as a kid. And so, I don't know, like lately I've been like, "Oh yeah, I haven't thought of this show in like a decade or more." And so I was like, I should watch some of this. And it's very Goosebumps adjacent. Like it's still kind of like goofy, but I do find it very funny how like the kids just straight up die. Kids just straight up get murked on this show. There was a bit where there was like a kid who like tricked his bully to getting into his cellar and then like opening a like opening a some cellar door that had like monsters in it, and they just fucking ate that kid. And then the ending insinuated that like he fed his little sister to it too because she was annoying. And I'm just like, damn. Can I get I don't want like a full episode. Can I get like the intro? Yeah, this intro always scared the shit out of me as like a little baby child because the atmosphere of it just spooked me. This clown, this fucking clown. This clown scared the fucking shit out of me. I hate it. This goddamn clown. I don't know why, but like this clown always freaked me out. I was like, nah! Submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society. The time I accidentally pooped myself when I risked a fart when I was hanging around family, and then I had to try and find my way out of that situation. Anyway. Got clown talent. Oh my god. Oh my god, I've been clown talent. Oh fuck. 10 out of 5 way spooked. Oh my god, I've been spooked. Oh yeah, you know what else? You know what other piece of media that I've been like super into lately? I'll take you with me again. So I've been listening to a podcast called Mayfair Watchers Society, and this is a potted cast that is it has heavy involvement from Trevor Henderson, who's the artist who made the Siren Head creature. Yeah, he does like some spooky shit. Can I just get like his art and not like art inspired by him? So there's just like dudes. I thought that said fart. I thought that was just a monster that had fart written on its face. This is the fart. Yes, this is the fart monster. He just comes in to let you know he be farting. Hi, I'm Grandpa Chillylegs. I'm crossing the road because I need to get my insulin. I don't. That got weird and dark. Blah 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 blah. Oh my god! It's the Meatball Man. Sorry, now hold on, I got distracted. I'm trying to find more art that's, like, specifically made by him and not just, like, inspired. Oh, there's Siren Head. There's the boy. This looks so nice. This looks like... This looks like I would just be, like, walking around the forest, and then I would see him, and then there'd be, like, rose petal, like cherry blossoms going down. And I would just be like, hey, so, what you doing? What you doing Friday? Go to his Twitter. Oh, that would make more sense, wouldn't it? Anyway. Welcome to the stream where I just kind of look at some pictures and then make noises. The romantic air raid siren starts. Oh, there he is. There's Cartoon Kitty. Mr. Wehr-Wolf love. Why are people tagging Trevor Henderson in like dating sim games? This isn't what that's well. It's the. I mean, I guess Trevor Henderson dating sim, that'd be fine, but like, I would 100% play a Trevor dating sim, a Trevor Henderson. Look at this guy. Look at this fucking guy. This guy, he looks so sweet. Just look at him. He's got them big puppy dog eyes. You just walk up to him and be like, hey, what's up? Cartoon cat, but he's distorted. There. Oh, it's tagged with Trevor Henderson. I'm such a goober. Where's like where's his like You know what? We have other shit we were supposed to do today. We have other shit we're supposed to do. We have other things. But anyway, yeah, so anyway, okay, so good podcast, good stories. I very much like it. Is he still on Twitter? I think he is, but I also know that he is on Tumblr now. And he's been hanging out there. But yeah, so like good podcast. Good. I very much, unsurprisingly, I very much enjoy short horror anthology podcasts. Yeah, and this is a new one, and I think it's good, and I think people should listen to it because it's enjoyable, and I like it. Anyway, like I said, we have other shit we were gonna do today, but I got super distracted. Anyway, so I think we've been chatting for about 30 minutes. We should probably actually read the damn thing. One of these days, maybe I will do like a just chatting stream, but I need to figure out how to get because so technically I have like a live 2D avatar that has like, like the tracking and all that, but I don't know how to work it without my husband here, without my partner here to show me how. And he's just never home on days where I choose to stream. So like I need to wait until there's a day where he's home and I feel like streaming and he can show me how to set it up. And then maybe I'll do like a just chatting stream. I want to do one of those like tier list. I want to do one of those like tier list streams where I just make a tier list and then everybody here tells me what shit opinions I have. But with that said, I came here to eat some very dreadful pennies. Just awful. Just the most unpleasant, foul-tasting, dreadful pennies. And that's what I'm gonna do, damn it. So the first story in the book is just the entirety of Frankenstein, and I'm not doing that. I'm not going to read 158 pages of Frankenstein right now. So I'm skipping ahead to some other stuff. Because this book promises me some old, like, Victorian era fun shenanigans, silly times. And that's what I'm here for. So our first story of the night, our first story of the evening with me, your host, Dunny Blobular. Frankenstein was the doctor, Victor Hugo was the monster. Victor Hugo. Why does that Why does that name sound so familiar? I'm stupid. I'm stupid for some reason. Oh, okay. I had to look I had to look that up cuz I was like that was funny. Wait, I don't wait. I have to look. Hold on. Let me Google something. Yeah, that was funny. All right. First story of the night. It is simply called the Wehr-Wolf, but it's spelled like Wehr. The Wehr-Wolf. The Legend of the Limousin by Richard Thomson. It also starts with a short poem from Aesop's fables titled The Wolf, the Wolf. 'Twas soothly said in olden hours that men were oft with wondrous powers, endowed their wonted forms to change, and werewolves wild abroad to range. So Garwal roams in savage pride, and hunts for blood and feeds on men, spreads dire destruction far and wide, and makes the forest broad his den. By Marie Laidu Bisque-Clavazet. The ancient province of Poitou in France has long been celebrated in the annals of romance as one of the most famous haunts of those dreadful animals whose species is between a phantom and a beast of prey, and which are called by the Germans werewolves. Or should I be calling them werewolves? Should I call them werewolves? Werewolf. I'm gonna call them werewolves if they're referring to the German wolf. Werewolves, and by the French bisclaveret or loup-garou. To the English, these midnight terrors are yet unknown and almost without a name. But when they are spoken of in this country, they are called by way of eminence wild wolves. Which is stupid. Come up with a better name, America. Circa whatever time this story was published. The common superstition concerning them is that they are men in compact with the arch-enemy, who have the power of assuming the form and nature of wolves at certain periods. The hilly and wooded district of the Upper Limousin, which now forms the southern division of the Upper Vienne, was that particular part of the province which the werewolves were supposed to inhabit, whence, like the animals which gave them their name, they would wander out by midnight, far from their own hills and mountains, and run howling through the silent streets of the nearest towns and villages, to the great terror of all the inhabitants, whose piety, however, was somewhat increased by these supernatural visitations. Me walking through my French town at night, and I fall over, and my pants fall down, and I'm just there with my butt up, and I'm just like, oh no. Oh god, how embarrassing. I really hope that a werewolf doesn't come out and fucks me. Anyway. Oh no, oh I hope a werewolf doesn't come out and fucks me. There once stood in the suburbs of the town of Saint-Yero, which is situate in those dangerous parts of ancient Poitou, an old but handsome maison de plaisance, or in plain English, a country house belonging by ancient descent to the young Baroness Louise Jolodame, who, out of a dread of the terrible werewolves, a well-bred horror at the chambre et antique which it contained, and a greater love for the gallant court of Francis I, let the chateau to strangers, though they occupied but a very small portion of it, whilst the rest was left unrepaired, and was rapidly falling to decay. The vibes were terrible, just awful, just garbage home. They do this every other night. The people of the village watching me walk out and like try and taunt a werewolf, and they're like, it's not gonna happen. I'm like, I don't want it to happen. What makes this is completely by accident. I don't know what you're talking about. I have horrible luck with keeping my pants up. That's all I'm just doing. It's not like I'm trying to make it happen. Anyway. One of the parties by whom the old mansion was tenanted, kayfabe kept. I gotta keep up my kayfabe to try and get werewolves to fuck me. One of the parties by whom the old mansion was tenanted was a country chirurgeon? A country chirurgeon named Antoine du Pilon. Hold on, I have to look up what the hell a chirurgeon is. Hold on. We're doing a field trip again. We're back in it, baby. We're doing it. This is what we do. Okay. Chirurgeon. What the hell's a chirurgeon? A doctor or surgeon? Well, yeah, okay, I guess I could have figured that out. It had urgent in it. Archaic spelling of surgeon. Okay, so it's just an old surgeon. What the hell? No, no, VTube Studio, I don't want you. No, no, stop this. Cease, desist. Cease your activity, VTube Studio. I don't know how to use you. Piss off. God dang it. No, go away. Go away, VTube Studio. This is no, this is not what I want. Oh, hey, there's my little goat, though. Using face streaming may cause a connection to lag on some devices. Please make sure. Doesn't matter. Go away. I don't care. Yes, okay, I don't care. We're not using this. Fuck off. Sort off. I'm busy. Anyway. Let's go ahead and retake that sentence. One of the parties by whom the old mansion was tenanted was a country chirurgeon named Antoine du Pilon, who, according to his own account, was not only well acquainted with the science of Galen and Hippocrates, he was also a profound adept in those arts, for the learning of which some men toil their whole lives away, and are none the wiser, such as alchemy, converse with spirits, magic, and so forth. Pretty sexy, not gonna lie. Dr. Dupillon had an abundant leisure to talk of his knowledge at the little cabaret of Saint-Hero, which bore the sign of the Chevalier bore the sign of the Chevalier Bayard's arms, where he assembled round him many of the idler members of the town, the chief of whom were... everybody has funny little French names in this that I don't know how to pronounce, and I'm really just trying to bullshit my way through it. The chief of whom were Curboli, the courier, Malbois, the Jaunet, La Jaquette, the tailor, and Nicole Bonvolet, his host, together with several other equally errant gossips, who all swore roundly, at the end of each of their parleys, that Dr. Antoine Dupillon was the best doctor and the wisest man in the whole world. All of these people with their funny little French names, and they're like, this guy, biggest dick ever. This man's penis, enormous. You're doing fine, but laying the accent on the French names rather heavy. Yeah, that tracks. Excuse me, I've been learning French off and on through Duolingo, and just sort of repeating the same 3 lessons every, 5 weeks when I get the inclination. I think I know a little bit more about French than you. Okay? Alright. I don't mean that. I know French. I speak French words because the little green owl taught me apple. One of my partners is French. I've never spoken a word, but I'm also qualified. Okay, well, you got me there. That's closer to it than I've gotten. Let's see. Big Dick Doctor, best guy in the whole dang world. To remove, however, any wonder that may arise in the reader's mind how a professor of such skill and knowledge should be left to waste his abilities so remote from a patronage of the great, it should be remarked that in such cases as had already come before him, he had not been quite so successful as could have been expected or desired, since old Genefred Corbeau, who was frozen almost double with age and ague, he kept cold and fasting to preserve her from fever, and he would have cut off the leg of Pierre Fossil the Reaper when he wounded his right arm in harvest time to prevent the flesh from mortifying downwards. Faye's high as fuck, so Faye'll be here. In a retired apartment of the same deserted mansion where this mirror of the Surgeons resided, dwelt a peasant and his daughter, who had come to Saint Giraud from a distant part of Normandy, and of whose history nothing was known, but that seemed but they seemed to be in the deepest poverty, although they neither asked relief nor uttered a single complaint. Indeed, they rather avoided all discourse with their gossiping neighbors, and even with their fellow inmates, excepting so far as the briefest courtesy required, and as they were able, on entering their abode, to place a reasonable security for payment in the hands of old Gervais, the Baroness's Jolodin steward. They were permitted to live in the old chateau with little questioning and less sympathy. The father appeared in general to be a plain rude peasant. I walk up to you and I'm like, you, sir, are a plain rude peasant. Whom poverty somewhat tinctured with misanthropy, though there were times when his bluntness towered into a haughtiness not accordant with his present station, but seemed like a relic of a higher sphere from which he had fallen. He strove, and the very endeavor increased the bitterness of his heart to mankind, to conceal his abject indigence, Indiana Jones, indie games, indigence, indigestion, INDIGENCE. Boy, we already have problems reading, like, late 1800s fiction here, and now I'm, like, going even earlier. So I don't know what made me think this was a good idea. But fuck it, let's keep going. This is endurance trial, let's go. But that was too apparent to all, since he was rarely to be found at Saint Hero, but led a wild life in the adjacent mountains and forest, occasionally visiting the town, to bring to his daughter Adelaide a portion of the spoil, which, as a hunter, he indefatigably sought for the subsistence of both. Adelaide, on the contrary, though she felt as deeply as her father the sad reverse of fortune to which they were exposed, had more gentleness in her sorrow, and more content in her humiliation. She would, when he returned to the cottage, worn with fatigue of his forest labours, try, but many times in vain, to bring a smile to his face, and consolation to his heart. "My father," she would say, "quit, I beseech you, this wearisome hunting for some safer employment nearer home. You depart, and I watch in vain for your return. Days and nights pass away, and you come not, whilst my disturbed imagination will ever whisper the danger of a forest midnight, fierce howling wolves, and robbers still more cruel." And then the dad was like, "What the hell are you saying? I love you, but can you, like, speak normal? We need to take these people, we need to take these people the text of Homestuck so they can type better." Go back in time, we'll just be like, "Hello, Victorian era, hello, sir or madam, can I interest you in a Homestuck? It'll cure what ails you." Adjusting my chair again. "Robbers, girl, say'st thou?" answered her father with a bitter laugh. "And what shall they gain from me, think ye? Is there aught in this worn-out gabardine to tempt them? Go to, Adelaide. I am not now Count Gaspard de Marcanville, the friend of the royal Francis, and a knight of the Holy Ghost, but plain Hubert, the hunter of the Limousin, and wolves, though trowest, will not prey upon wolves. I think that's called. I think that's called social distancing. But dear father, but dear my father, said Adelaide, embracing him, I would that thou wouldst that thou wouldst seek a oh wait, no. No, I was right. I was on the right line. I was on the right line. No, I'm good. Sorry, I had a brain fart and I completely spaced out on what I was doing. Anyway, but dear father, said Adelaide, embracing him, I would that thou wouldst seek a safer occupation nearer to our dwelling, for I would be by your side. What wouldst have me to do? What would have me to do? Chat, what wouldst have me to do? Has anyone ever decided to go as far as to even want do more look like? How come we hot food in the oven when cold hot eat food heat the hot? I would have a soda. Father, please, I wouldst thou bring me a Dr. Pepper. Please, bring me a Peppis. Bring me an ice-cold Peppis from yon vending machine. Cherry vanilla if they have it, but if they don't, regular's fine too. But don't get me diet, or I will stab you. What wouldst have me to do, girl? Interrupted Gaspard impatiently. Wouldst have me put this hand to the sickle or plough, which has so often grasped a sword in the battle, and a banner lance in the tournament? Or shall a companion of Le Saint Esprit become a fellow hand worker with the low artisans of this miserable town? I tell thee, Adelaide, that but for thy sake I would never again quit the forest, but would remain there in a savage life, till I forgot my language and my species, and become a Wehr-Wolf, or a wild buck. The dad here sounds like one of those like boomer dads that's like, I would rather be fishing. Father, please stop going fishing all the time. No, I'd rather go fishing. I hate my family. I hate my wife. I just want to fish. I'll bring you some fucking fish. He's 100% doomer. Such was commonly the close of their conversation, for if Adelaide dared to press her entreaties further, Gaspard, half frenzied, would not fail to call to her mind all the unhappy circumstances of his fall, and work himself almost to madness by their reparation. He had in early life been introduced by the Count de Saint-Flour to the Count of Francis I, where he had risen so high in the favour of his sovereign that he was continually in his society, and in the many wars which so embittered the reign of that excellent monarch, de Marcanville's station was ever by his side. In these conflicts Gaspard's bosom had often been the shield of Francis, and even in moments of the most imminent danger, and the great king as often showered upon his deliverer those rewards, which, to the valiant and high-minded soldier, are far dearer than riches, the glittering jewels of knighthood, and the golden coronal of the peerage. To that friend who had fixed his feet so loftily and securely in the slippery paths of a court, Gaspard felt all the ardor and youthful gratitude, and yet he sometimes imagined that he could perceive an I can read funny words. They are good for me because I am smart. He could perceive an abatement in the favour of de Saint-Flour as that of Francis increased. The truth was that the gold and rich promises of the king's great enemy and Emperor Charles V had induced de Saint-Flour to swerve from his alliance, and he now waited for a convenient season to put the darkest designs in practice against his sovereign. He also felt no slight degree of envy, even against that very person whom he had been the instrument of raising. And at length an opportunity occurred, when he might gratify both his ambition and his revenge, by the same blow. It was in one of those long wars in which the French monarch was engaged, and in which de Saint-Flour and de Marcanville were his most constant companions, that they were both watching near his couch while he slept, when the former, in a low tone of voice, thus began to sound the faith of the latter towards his royal master. Do you think Gaspar and Francis the First ever explored each other's bodies? Anyway. What sayest thou, Gaspar? Were not a prince coronet and a king's revenue in Naples better than thus ever toiling in a war that seems unending? Hearest thou, brave de Marcanville? We can close it with the loss of one life only. Queen of Heaven! Oh boy, this is a word that means something different now. Queen of Heaven! Ejaculated Gaspar. What is the Queen of Heaven? What is it thou wouldst say, de Saint-Flour? Say why that there have been other kings of France before this Francis, and will be, when he shall have gone to his place. Thinkest thou that he of the double-headed black eagle would not amply reward the sword that cut this fading lily from the earth? No more, de Saint-Flour, cried Gaspar. Even from you, who placed me where I might flourish beneath that lily's shade, will I not hear this treason? Rest secure, I will not betray thee to the king. My life shall sooner be given for thine. But I will watch thee with more vigilance than a wolf hath when he watcheth the night fold. And your first step to the heart of Francis shall be over the body of Gaspar de Marcanville. I was gonna make another explore their bodies joke, but yeah. I always think of eaculated as speaking it like a spell name. Echo, yeah. Magic echo. Oh, is my mic echoing again? Hold on a second. I'm gonna unplug my mic and plug it back in. Hold on. All right, how are we doing? Are we still echoey? Are we still? I'm gonna keep saying words. How are we doing? I need to. You know what? I need to like. Sounds good. I'm thinking. So, Galaxy and I have both been thinking about this. We got this mic and we were like, yeah, good mic. It's gonna be a good microphone. But it seems to cause a lot of problems, and like it's a pain in the ass to even get it to work with streaming. But I do like the 75% of the time that it works good. And like doesn't absolutely suck ass. But yeah, I'm thinking I might need to replace this guy at some point. The microphone is good, the quality isn't. I gotta figure out why it does that echo thing then. Because I would like to keep using it, but I find it frustrating every now and again that it'll just start echoing. Very, very annoying. Stop it. Stop it now. Stop echoing. Stop doing this. Anyway. Nay, then, said de Saint-Flour aside. He must be my first victim. And immediately drawing his sword, he cried aloud, What ho, guards! Treason! Whilst Gaspar stood immovable, with astonishment and horror. The event is soon related, for Francis was but too easily persuaded that de Marcanville was in reality guilty of the act about to have been perpetrated by Saint-Flour, and the magnanimity of Gaspar was such that not one word which might criminate his former friend could be drawn from him, even to save his own life. The kind-hearted Francis, however, was unable to forget in a moment the favor with which for years he had been accustomed to look upon de Marcanville, and it was only at the earnest solicitation of the couriers, many of whom were rejoiced at the thought of a powerful rival's removal, that he could be prevailed on to pass upon him even the sentence of degradation and banishment. So our boy was like, yo, what's up? And then the other guy was like, hey, what if I just killed, like, the guy we work for? And our guy was like, that's fucked up. We shouldn't do that. And he's like, yeah, okay. Hey, guards, come here. This motherfucker's trying to fucking kill the king. What? And our boy's like, wait, what? No. Wait, what do you mean? No, it's you. It's not me. And everybody just takes it at face value, and they're like, yeah, okay, all right. Well, he said you said it, so I already stabbed the king in plain view. I already stabbed the king 30 minutes ago. You know what? Maybe if I stop, like, shifting around all the time, maybe it won't echo so much. Maybe it's because I keep, like, swiveling in my chair. Gaspard hastened to his chateau, but the treasures which he was allowed to bear with him into exile were little more than his Rosalie and his daughter Aurelia, with whom he immured himself in the dark and almost boundless recesses of the Hanoverian Harz, where his fatigues and his sorrows soon rendered his gaunt and attenuated form altogether unknown. In this savage retirement he drew up a faithful narration of de Saint-Flour's treachery, and in confirmation of its truth procured a certificate from his confessor, Father Aegidus, one of the holy men who of old were dwellers in forests and deserts, and directing it to the king, placed it in the hands of his wife, that if in any of those hazardous excursions in which he engaged to procure their daily subsistence he should perish, it might be delivered to Francis, and his family thus be restored to their rank and estates. When his pledge to de Saint-Flour could no longer be claimed, years passed away, and in the gloomy recesses of the Hercynian woods, Gaspard acquired considerable skill as a hunter. Had it been to preserve his own life only, he had laid him calmly down upon the sod, and resigned that life to famine, or to the hungry wolf. But he had still two objects which bound him to existence, and therefore in the chase the wild buck was too slow to escape his spear, and the bear too weak to resist his attacks. His fate notwithstanding preyed heavily upon him, and often brake out fits of vehement passion, and the most bitter lamentations, which at length so wrought upon the grief-worn frame of Rosalie de Marcanville, that about 10 years after Gaspard's exile, her death left him a widower, when his daughter Aurelia was scarcely 18 years of age. It was then with a mixture of desperation and distress that de Marcanville determined to rush forth from his solitude into France, and careless of the fate which might await him for returning from exile unrecalled, to advance even to the court, and laying his papers at the foot of the throne, to demand the ordeal of combat with de Saint-Flour. But when he arrived at the woody province of the upper Limousin, his purpose failed him, and he saw in the broad daylight, which rarely entered the Harz forest, the afflicting changes which 10 years of the severest labor and the most heartfelt sorrow had made upon his form. He might indeed, so far as it all regarded recollections of his person, have safely gone into the court of Francis, but Gaspard also saw that in the retired forest surrounding Saint-Giraud he might still reside unknown in his beloved France, that under the guise of a hunter he could still provide for the support of his gentle Aurelia, and that in the event of his death he would be considerably nearer to her sovereign's abode. It was, then, in consequence of these reasons that I said this name like 5 times already. Killer Queen has already stabbed the king. No, you don't understand. It's the work of an enemy stand. Bark, 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 bark. It was then, in consequence of these reasons, that de Marcanville employed a part of his small remaining property in securing a residence in the dilapidated chateau, as it had been already mentioned. It was some time after their arrival that the inhabitants of the town of St. Giraud were alarmed by the intelligence that a Wehr-Wolf, or perhaps a troop of them, certainly inhabited the woods of the Limousin. The most terrific howlings were heard in the night, and the wild rush of chase swept through the deserted streets. Yet the townspeople, according to the most approved rules for acting where werewolves are concerned, never once thought of sallying forth in a body and with weapons and lighted brands to scare the monsters from their prey, but adding a more secure fastening to every window, which is the werewolf's usual entrance. They deserted such as had already fallen their victims, with one brief expression of pity for them, and many adieu ma bonne for themselves. It was asserted, too, that some of the country people, whose dwellings came more immediately into contact with the Limousin forests, had lost their children, whose lacerated remains, afterwards discovered in the woods, only half devoured, plainly denoted them to have fallen prey to some abandoned werewolf. Kinky woods play. Yeah, there's some wacky shit happening out in the woods. I like how the story so far is basically just for as long as it's taken to get there. There's a guy and his daughter. They live here. The guy hunts because he got screwed over by his friend, and now he lives in exile. Some kid died and the neighbors are pissy. Some kid fucking died and now the neighbors are all pissed off. Though I do like how it says, like, none of these townsfolk just, like, picked up a fucking sharp object and was like, alright, let's go get it. Let's just go fucking kill it. No, they were all like, I'm just gonna lock my door real nice and I'm gonna hope the werewolf doesn't get in. Oh man, oh god. I forgot to, I didn't lock my door. I didn't lock my doors or my windows, and I fell over, and my pants fell down. I really hope a werewolf doesn't come inside and comes fucks me. Anyway, doing the same joke again, because it's funny. Would you hunt a werewolf? Would I hunt a werewolf? What do you think? Do you think werewolves taste good? If you hunted a werewolf... Wait, no, because if you kill a werewolf, it probably reverts back to a person, right? But, like, if you hunted a werewolf and it stayed a werewolf and then you cooked the werewolf, do you think it would taste good? I want to eat a werewolf. I changed my mind. I no longer am afraid of the werewolf coming to fucks me. I want the werewolf to... I'm gonna do a flippity do. I'm gonna take a bite out of the werewolf. Phrasing. No, it's a predator. Most of them taste like shit. I can, with enough seasoning and ketchup, I'll make it work. I'll make it work. I want to eat the werewolf. I want to eat the werewolf. I want to eat, like, all these fictional creatures that would probably, like, kill you in 2 seconds. I want to know what they taste like. I imagine, like a vampire. I kind of think a vampire would probably taste like jerky, depending on the freshness of it. Oh, the Tsuchinoko? Oh, I bet the Tsuchinoko tastes good. The fat snake. The Japanese fat snake. What are some other... Hold on, now I'm thinking. What, like, mythical creatures would taste good? Are you talking about food eating, or... I'm talking about food. I'm talking about cooking them up and eating them. We'll decide when we get there. But yeah, no, I'm talking about, like... Yo, I want to eat them. I want to cook them up. I want to trap a werewolf, right? And I just want to get, like, a big hunk of, like, meat. I just want to get a cut of werewolf meat, you know? Like, it could come from the butt cheek, it could come from, like, the abdominals, it could come from the thigh, but I just want to cut into it. Because, like, I assume that, like, any piece that you cut off of a werewolf still remains a werewolf, right? Like, if you kill the werewolf, it turns back into a human, but if I just cut off parts of it, it'll probably still be technically werewolf meat. So then what I can do is I can cook that up, and then I just slow cook that with, like, some herbs and spices, and then have like a little bit of ketchup on the side if I really need it, or give it some barbecue sauce, and then I will make it edible, and it'll be just so I can say that I've eaten a werewolf. I've really gone off on a tangent. Use Thousand Island hacks. You know what? I have some cranch in my fridge. I have some like, they sell hold on a second. No, cranch, not crank, cranch. Give me that cranch. Save image. Save it. And then give me another one. Image. Downloads. There we go. I'm gonna have this I'm gonna keep this cranch off to the side for when the Wehr-Wolf shows up, and then I'm gonna eat it. That's the plan, everybody. Where am I? Hold on. Where's my? How do I? Where? There I am. Let me shrink myself back down. I'm gonna wait for the werewolf to show up, and then I'm gonna eat it with some cranch. Is that my cat? Is that my cat demanding attention from me? Does that mean I get to pull out this to publicly shame her? Spooky, are you here to interrupt my stream again? Are you here to be an absolute pain in the ass? Are you here to be a little butthole? Use cranch on the cat. I can't eat my cat. As much of a pain in the ass as she is, and as much as I want to flush her down the toilet, I don't want to eat her. Come on, really? I set up a spot for you, and you ruin it in like 2 seconds. I'm holding you like a baby now. Get babied, idiot. Get fucking babied. How do you like that shit? I said crancher. Spooky, do you have anything to say? Spooky, do you have anything to say? Spooky. Noogie, 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 noogie. I'm giving you noogies. Very soft, gentle noogies that won't actually hurt you. I'm petting you. I'm petting you. I'm petting you. Get pet, idiot. Get petted on. Okay. Oh, well, alright. And then she fell out of my arms. And now she's coming right back. She's not very smart. Spooky, get up. I set up a blanket for you. Just get up here. Why do you have a brain the size of a peanut? Just get up here. You're so smart. You're such a smart and lovely creature that doesn't cause me frustration every day of my life. Anyway, away with you. Banishment. All right, let's get back to it. Let's get back into it. I completely lost my place because I was thinking so much about what werewolf meat would taste like. Give me a sec. Right, right, okay. They had just moved into the castle, and that spooked the villagers. Right, werewolf, perhaps a troop of them. Right, here we go. They never they I think we stopped around the point where they were like, yeah, they never actually like tried to kill the damn thing, and they were just like, I'll just lock the door. It was asserted, too, that some of the country people whose dwellings came more immediately into contact with the Limousin forest had lost their children, whose lacerated remains afterwards, discovered in the woods, only half devoured, plainly denoted them to have fallen prey of some abandoned Wehr-Wolf. I only need one juice. I just need the juice. Brings out the sauces. Nice to meet you. It is not surprising that in a retired town where half the people were without employment, and all were thoroughbred gossips and lovers of wonders, that the inroads of the werewolves formed too important an epoch in their history to be passed over without a due discussion. Under pretense, therefore, of being a protection to each other, many of the people of Saint Hero, and especially the worthy conclave mentioned at the beginning of his history, were almost eternally convened at the Chevalier Bayard's arms, talking over their nightly terrors, and filling each other with such affright, by the repetition of many a lying old tale upon the same subject, that too much alarmed to part, they often agreed to pass the night over Nicole Bonvarlet's wine flask and blazing... Oh, I can't say that. That's a slur. Like, back then, it made, like, it was, like, a thin cigarette or, like, a burning stick, but you know what I'm talking about. I can't say that now. That's a slur. Slur counter 1. We're reading old books only took an hour. That's probably is that like a record for, like, the longest we've gone reading old books without, like, casual racism? You could say but. That's a substitute. Nicole Bonvarlet's wine flask and blazing butt. Ass butt. Blazing poop ass fart. Upon a theme so intimately connected with magical lore, as is the history of the werewolves, Dr. Antoine Dupillon discoursed like a Solomon, citing to the great edification and wonders of his hearers such hosts of authors both sacred and profane, that he who should have... I can't read. Poop-ass dot fart. What happens if I click that? Does that take me anywhere? No. I tried to click. I thought that was a real link and it was going to take me to poop-ass.fart. Anyway. Discourse like a Solomon, citing to the great edification and wonders of his hearers such hosts of authors both sacred and profane, that he who should but have hinted that the werewolves of Saint Hero were simply like other wolves, would have found as little gentleness in his hearers as he would have experienced from the animals themselves. Well, my masters, began Bonvarlet, one evening when they were met, I would not for a ton of Malmsey wine now, be in the Limousin forest tonight. For do ye hear how it blusters and pours? By the ship of Saint Mildred, in a wild night like this, there's no place in the world like your hearth-side in a goodly auberge, with a merry host and good liquor, both of which neighbours ye have to admiration. Ay, Nicole, replied Curbally, it's a foul night, truly, either for man or cattle, and yet I'll warrant ye that the werewolves will be out in it, for their skin is said to be the same as that of the fiend himself wears, and that would shut you out water and storm and wind like a castle wall. Mass, now, but it would simply be the making of my fortune, and I could but get one of their hides. Hey, me and this guy have similar thoughts. He's like, yo, I want to get the drip. I want to make a coat out of one of these wolves. I want to get their pelt, and I want to make something nice out of it. And me, I'm just like, yo, yum yum yum. Yo, when you carve it up, save some meat for me, bro. Werewolf leather wallet. Truly for a churl, began Dr. Dupillon, an unlettered artisan, thy wish showeth a pretty wit. For a cloak made from some skin of a Wehr-Wolf would for ever defend its wearer from all other wolves, and all animals that your wolves feed upon, even as Pythagoras wrieth that one holding the eye of a wolf in his hand shall scare away from him all weaker creatures, for like as the sight of a wolf doth terrify. So basically, if you have a wolf pelt, it de-aggroes all other wolves in the area. And if you have the eye of a wolf, then it causes like a passive AoE fear effect around your character. Equip wolf pet. Oh man, that's Larry. Equip werewolf pelt to create a passive disguise, but don't get too close or they'll sniff you out. Hark, neighbors, did ye hear that cry? It is a werewolf's bark, exclaimed Jerome Malboy, startling from his settle. Ay, by the bull of St. Luke did I, friend Jerome, returned Bonvarlet. Surely the great fiend himself can make no worser a howling. I even thought 'twould split the very rafters last night, though I deemed that they're of good seasoned fir. There thou errest again, said the doctor in a pompous tone to the last speaker. O ye Ruscus, whom I live with as Orpheus did with the savages of Thracia, whence is it that ye possess such boundless stupidity? Thou sayest, Jerome Malboy, that they bark, and could I imagine that shooting in the dark, thou hadst hit it on the Greekish phrase which calls them dogs of the night. I should say thou had said wisely. But now I declare that thou hast spoken fully ignorantly, right woodenly, Jerome Malboy, though art beyond thy square, friend Joiner. Thou hast overstepped thy rule, good carpenter. Doth not the great Albertus bear testimony, or most illiterate, that wolves bark not, when he saith, Ast lopes epas volat, frendi agratia per, which for thine edification is in the vulgar tongue. But the wolf doth loudly howl, and the boar his teeth doth grind, where the wildest plains are spread before, and forest rise behind. Eidem auctor, and the same author also saith, which maketh yet more against thee, O menti inno, per noctem raisonner lopus, voloent orbe, which in the common is the wolf by night through silent cities prowls, and makes the streets resound with hideous howls. He cast a curse. Probably. I probably butchered all of that, and I accidentally summoned some kind of horrible curse demon that'll comes fucks me. No. Never mind. Don't worry. I'll eat that thing with Cranch, too. You'd summon a new boyfriend? Yes, I would. I would. This is... Yo, I summon a hot, goth, twinkish demon boyfriend. And then I eat him. I consume him with Cranch. Anyway... And doth not Servius say the like in the verse wherein I opine he hints at werewolves? Voler canom est forer, to howl is the voice of dogs and furies. Thus findest thou, Faber Scolios, that here we have an agreement touching the voice of wolves, which is low and mournful, and therefore the word veletus
is fitly applied as an imitation thereof. Your Almain says Hulen, the Frenchman saith Hurler, and the Englishman, with a conglomeration of sounds as bad as the wolf's own, calleth it howling. By holy dog of Tobias, ejaculated Bonvalet, and I think our doctor speaketh all languages, as he had his head broken with a brick from the Tower of Babel, and all the tongues had got him at once. But where think ye, monsieur, that these cursed loups-garous came from? Are they like unto other wolves, or what breed be they? Nicole Bonverlet, again began the untired doctor, after taking a long draught at the flask. Nicole Bonverlet, I perceive thou hast more of a good literature than thy fellows, for not only dost thou mark erudition when it is set before thee, but thou also wisely distrustest thine own knowledge, and questionest of those who are more learned than thou. Touching thy demand of what breed are the Wehr-Wolves, be this mine answer. Thou knowest that if ye ask of a shepherd how he can distinguish one sheep from another, he tells you that even in their faces he seeth distincto secreto, that which to a common observer is not visible, and thus when the vulgar see a wolf, they can but say it is a wolf, and there endeth their cunning. But by the lion of St. Mark, if ye ask one skilled in the knowledge of four-footed animals, he shall presently discourse to you of the genus and species thereof, make known its haunts and history, display its occult properties, and give you a lection upon all of your ancient and modern authors have said concerning it. Okay, the Tower of Babel brick was a joke was good. I agree. It was very wordy, but like that was a solid that was a solid burn. Solid joke. Good job. By the mass now, interrupted La Jaquette, and I would fain know the habit in which your loup-garou vests him when he is not in his wolfish shape, whether he have... Oh my god, oh, I'm so sorry. That came out of nowhere. I didn't mean to... Oh my god, I didn't mean to burp into the mic. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, please don't be mad at me. And would fain know the habit in which your loup-garou vests in him when he is not in his wolfish shape, whether he have slashed cushes? He'd slashed that cush. when you a werewolf and you wake up and you smell that zaza. Which for a long time, whenever I heard anyone say smell that zaza, I really thought they were talking about pizza, and they're apparently talking about weed. Which upset me greatly because I really thought they were talking about pizza. Because I would absolutely love to wake up in the morning and smell that pizza. Zaza's weed? Oh, I thought it was pizza. Peace, I pray you, peace, good Taylor, said Dr. Antoine. It is but rarely that I speak, and even then my discourse is brief. And therefore I beseech you not to mar the words of wisdom which are seldom heard, with thy folly which men may listen to outwardly. Touching your wolves, honest friends, as I was saying, there are 5 kinds, as Opanus noteth in his admonition of shepherds, of the which two sorts that rove in the countries of Suecia and the Visigoths, and are called Ecomena, but of these I will not now speak, but turn me unto those of which species is the Wehr-Wolf. The first is named the Shooter, for that he runneth fast, is very bold, howleth fearfully. There is the cry again, exclaimed Malboy. As the sounds drew near, the doctor's audience evinced symptoms of alarm, which were rapidly increasing, when a still louder shriek was heard close to the house. What ho, within there? Cried a voice, evidently of one in agony and of terror. And ye men, open the door. and the next moment it was burst from its fastenings by the force of a human body flailing against it, which dropped without motion upon the floor. The confusion which this accident created may well be imagined. The doctor, greatly alarmed, retreated into the fireplace, whence he cried out to the equally scared rustics. "It's a Wehr-Wolf in a human shape. Don't touch him, I tell you, but strike him with the fire fork between the eyes, and he'll turn into a wolf and run away. You, Carbory, out with thy knife and flay me a piece of his neck, and you'll see the thick wolf hide under it. For the love of the saints, neighbors, take care of yourselves, and..." Before we continue, you gonna cut off a piece for me? Huh? Cut off a piece of that hide, but cut off a hunk of that rump for me, because I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Cut off some of that werewolf meat. I got a full bottle of Cranch and I'm ready to use it. "Peace, Master Doctor," said Bonverlet, the only one of the party that had ventured near the stranger. "He breathes yet, for he's a Christian man, likes as we are." "Don't you be too sure of that," replied Du Pilon. "Ask him to say his creed and his Pater Noster in Latin." "Nay, good my master," returned the humane host, pouring some wine down the stranger's throat, and bearing his reviving body to the hearth. "He can scarce speak his mother tongue, and therefore he's no stomach for Latin. So come, thou prince of all chirurgeons, and bleed me him, and when he comes to, why unschool him yourself." Dr. Antoine Dupillon advanced from his retreat, with considerable reluctance to attend upon his patient, who was richly habited in the luxuriant fashion of the court of Francis, and appeared to be a middle-aged man, of handsome features and commanding presence. As the doctor, somewhat reassured, began to remove the short cloak to find out the stranger's arm, he started back with a fright, and actually roared with pain, and receiving a deep scratch from the huge paw of a wolf, which had apparently grew out from his shoulder. "Avaunt thee, Satanas!" ejaculated Dupillon. "I told ye how it would be, my masters, that this cursed Wehr-Wolf would bleed us first. By the porker of Saint Anthony." Just gonna walk out. I stub my toe. "By the porker of Saint Anthony." Imagine Christian werewolves. That's just Powerwolf. That's just the band Powerwolf. Werewolves killing vampires for Jesus. Where were we? So this dude's like mid-transformation. They take the church by storm, Taking a sippy. Drinking some agua, some of that Wawa. All right, I got stuck on the porker of Saint Anthony. "By the porker of Saint Anthony, blessed beast, and he hath clawed me from the biceps flexor cubitae down to the os lunaire, even as a peasant would plow up a furrow." "Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha!" laughed Bonverlet, holding up the dreaded wolf's paw, which was yet bleeding, as if it had been recently separated from the animal. "Here's no Wehr-Wolf, but a brave hunter, who hath cut off this godly forehand in the forest, with his contour jasse, but soft," he added, throwing it aside. "He recovers. Okay, so he cut off the werewolf arm, and so if that's the case, yo, you're gonna share that shit, right? You gonna share that, right? You gonna share that? You gonna share that delicious hunk of werewolf meat, right? Yeah, I got the grill ready. Yo, I got my spatula. I got my apron. I got my knife. You're gonna share that shit, right? You're gonna share some of that nice werewolf meat, right? Anyway. Pierre Henri, said the stranger, recovering. Where are ye? How far is the king behind us? Ha, what place is this, and who are ye? He continued, looking around. This, your good worship, is the Chevalier Bayard's arms, in the town of Saint Hero, where your honour fell, through loss of blood, as I guess by this wound. We were fain to keep the door barred, for fear of the Wehr-Wolves, and we half deemed your lordship to be one, at first sight of the great paw you carried, but I judge you brought it from the forest. Aye, yes, them art in the right on't.
Yo, right on't. For Christ's sake, I just want to grill cryptids. For heaven's all this politics, all these social upheavals, I just want to grill cryptids, for God's sake. I just want to put Mothman in the slow cooker. I just want to put the chupacabra in the smoker and then have some jerky. I just want to grill for Mothman's sake.
Where were we? Chevalier's arms, fell through loss of blood, brought it from the forest.
Right on. Oh, yes, them art in the right on't,
said the stranger, recalling himself. 'Twas in the forest, I tell thee, host, that I have this night looked upon the archdemon himself. Apogee, Lucifer, ejaculated Dupillon, devoutly crossing his breast. And have I received a claw from his forefoot? I feel the enchantment of lycanthropy coming over me. I shall be a Wehr-Wolf myself shortly. For what saith Hornhufius in the Treatise de Diabolis? I don't know how to say these next words. Liberius, the 15th, chapter 23, is referring to a book, clearly. They who are torn by a Wehr-Wolf, oh me, libre nos domine. Look to yourselves, neighbours, or I shall raven upon ye all. I pray you, Master Doctor, said Bonverlet, to let his lordship tell us his story first, and then we'll hear yours. How was it, fair sir? But take another cup of wine first.
Yo, you just got thrown through the fucking door, and you're losing a lot of blood here. Have some wine. This'll help you out. That's old Gil. Just ignore him. I'm gonna be a werewolf now. I got scratched by a werewolf paw. Now I'm gonna be a werewolf. And then Dunny's gonna hunt me down. He's gonna chop up my sweetmeats and eat it with cranch.
My tale is brief, answered the stranger. The king is passing tonight through the Limousin, and with 2 of my attendants I rode forward to prepare for his coming, when in the darkness of the wood we were separated, and as I galloped on alone, an enormous wolf with fiery flashing eyes leapt out of a brake before me, with the most fearful of howlings, and rushed on me with the speed of lightning. I interrupted Dupillon. As I told ye, they are called in the Greekish phrase dogs of the night, because of their howlings, and the shooter for that they shoot along. Now I pray your honour to proceed, and heed not the doctor, said Bonverlet.
Don't listen to that doctor. Look, he's just... don't listen to the doctor. We don't like him. He's just... we only invited him here because of obligation. We felt bad. Don't listen to him. Absolute hypochondriac. Just don't give him mine.
As the wolf leaped upon my horse, continued the stranger, I drew my coutedachi. I pulled out I pulled out my uchi katana, and I did 3 rolls and then 3 comboed him into a stun lock. And then tricked him into falling off the edge. And severed that huge paw which you found upon me. But as the violence of the blow made the weapon fall, I caught up a large forked branch of a tree, and struck the animal upon the forehead, upon which my horse began to rear and plunge, for where the wolf stood, I saw, by a momentary glimpse of moonlight, the form of an ancient enemy, who had long since been banished from France, and whom I believed to have died in the famine of the Harz forest. Lo you there now, cried Dupillon, a blow between the eyes with a forked stick. Said I not so from the Philo d'Ame? Oh, I am condemned to be a werewolf of a rarity, and I shall eat those of my most intimate acquaintance the first. Masters, look to yourselves. O Dies Infelix! I am unhappy man that I am. And with those words, he rushed out of the cottage, and then everyone else was like, oh my god, finally. What a fucking wiener, please. Please, yes, alright. At least he's gone, whatever. One of them's like, oh, that guy's gonna sleep tonight when he realizes nothing's gonna happen. I think the very fiends in Monsieur the Doctor tonight, cried the host, for here he's gone off without dressing his honour's wound. Heed not that, friend, but do thou provide torches and assistance to meet the king. My hurt is but small, but when my horse saw the apparition I told you of, he bounded forward like a Russian colt, dragging me through all the briars of the forest, for there seemed a troop of 1,000 wolves howling behind us, and at the verge of it dropped lifeless, and left me still pursued to gain the town, weak and wounded as I was. Saint Denis be praised now, said Bonverlet. You showed a good heart, my lord, but will at once set out to meet the king. So neighbors, take each of ye good pine slur. Take yourselves a good pine slur off of the hearth and call up more help as you go. And Nicolette and Madeline will prepare for our return. Oh wait, no, we didn't we decide to replace that with poop ass butt? Hold on a second. What was it? But we'll be at once out to meet the king. So neighbors, take each of ye good pine poop ass butt off the hearth, and call up more help as you go. And Nicolette and Madeline will prepare for our return. But, asked the stranger, where's the wolf's paw that I brought from the forest? I cast it aside, my lord, answered Bonvalet, till you had recovered, but I would fain beg it of you as a gift, for I will hang it over my fireplace, and have its story made into a song by Roland the minstrel. And, Mother of God, what is this? Continued he, putting his guest's hand, a human arm, cut off at the elbow, vested in the worn-out sleeve of a hunter's coat, and bleeding freshly at the part where it was dissevered. Holy Saint Mary! Exclaimed the stranger, regarding to his hand attentively. This is the arm of Gaspard de Marcanville, yet bearing the executioner's brand burnt in the flesh, and he is a werewolf. Oh, okay, so I think the werewolf arm morphed back into a human arm. And they're like, holy shit, that belongs to that guy that we totally knew was a werewolf from the start of this story. Why, said Bonverlet, that's the habit borne by the melancholy hunter, whose daughter lives in the ruined chateau yonder. He rarely comes to Saint Hero, but when he does, he brings more game than any 10 of your gentlemen huntsmen ever did. Come, we'll go seek the daughter of this man-wolf, and then on to the forest, for this fellow deserves a steak and a bundle of poop-ass butt. As well as ever Jean d'Arc, in my simple thinking. They then proceeded to Adelaide at the dilapidated chateau. In her distress at the foregoing story may better be conceived than described, yet she offered not the slightest assistance to accompanying them into the forest, though when one of the party mentioned their expected meeting with the king, her eyes became suddenly lighted up, and retiring for a moment she expressed herself in readiness to attend them. At the skirts of the forest they found an elderly man, of a strange, quaint appearance, couching in the fern like a hare, who called out to them in a squeaking voice that was at once familiar to all. Take care of yourselves, good people, for I am a werewolf, and shall speedily spring upon some of ye. Why, that's our doctor, as I am a sinful man, cried Bonverlet. Let's try his own cure upon him. Neighbouring Malboy, give me a touch of the forked branch, and I shall disenchant him. I warrant, and you, Coboli, out with your knife, and as though you would skin him. And then he continued aloud, Oh, honest friend, you're a werewolf, are you? Well, then I'll dispossess the devil that's in you. You shall be flayed and then burned for a wizard. With that, the rustics of St. Euro, who enjoyed the jest, fell upon the unhappy doctor, and by a sound of beating and other rough usage, so convinced him that he was not a Wehr-Wolf, that he cried out, "Praised be St. Gregory, I am a whole man again! Lo, I am healed, but my bones feel wondrous sore." Yeah, just... I love how this dude was like, "I'm a werewolf. I'm gonna kill everybody. Please turn away." And then all of his friends are like, "Oh my god. Okay, all right. If you're a werewolf, then we'll just have to take care of that." And then they just beat the shit out of him. And then he's like, "Oh, I'm not a werewolf." And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, that's what we've been trying to tell you, idiot." Thanks to the seraphical Father Francis, the devil hath gone out of me. Whilst the peasants were engaging in searching for the king's party and the mutilated wolf, the stranger, who was left with Adelaide de Marcanville, fainted through loss of blood, and as she bent over him and staunched his wounds with her scarf, he said with a faint voice, "Fair one, who is it thinkest thou whom thou art so bleedlessly attending?" "I wot not," answered she, "but that thou art a man. Hear me then, and throw aside these bandages for my dagger, for I am thy father's ancient enemy, Count de Sainte-Fleur." "Heaven forgive you then," returned Adelaide, "for the time of vengeance belongs to it only." "And it is come," cried a loud, hoarse voice, as a large wolf wounded by the loss of a forepaw leapt upon the Count and put an end to his existence. At the same moment the royal train, which the peasants had discovered, rode up the flambeau, and a knight with a large partisan made a blow at the wolf whom Adelaide vainly endeavoured to preserve, since the stroke was of sufficient power to destroy both. The wolf gave one terrific howl and fell backwards in the form of a tall, gaunt man in a hunter's dress, whilst Adelaide, drawing a packet from her bosom and offering it to the king, sank lifelessly upon the body of her father, Gaspard de Marcanville, the Wehr-Wolf of Limousin. Yeah, okay. So it was... So to recap, considering all of that was in funny olden speak. So, Mike, I'm assuming that what it was is that, well, that sucked. Yeah, I didn't get it. I didn't get any good meat off of that. So it was that our guy was a soldier, and his soldier buddy was like, "Hey, what if I just, like, committed treason?" And our protag was like, "That's bad. You can't do that." And then the antagonist was like, "Yeah, hey everybody, this guy's trying to assassinate the king." And our protag's like, "What?" And then he gets, like, exiled, and as he's exiled, he has, like, a letter or something drawn up that if he ever dies, he wants his family to take it to that king and be like, "Hey, actually, that's not what happened, and we should be allowed to live in the fancy place." And then for whatever reason, our protag got turned into a werewolf. And then as he's a werewolf, he kills the guy that was the traitor to him. And then his daughter also dies, and then hands over the thing, which is kind of pointless. Off-screen werewolf stuff. Yeah, a bunch of werewolf shit happened off-screen. That's basically what happened. All right, so the next story in this collection is Pit and the Pendulum by the Edgarian Alinian Poian. P.S. Put your cranch away? Absolutely not. There will be more things to put cranch on. I will not put my cranch away. Unless like Heinz is gonna sue me. The lawyers for Heinz show up and they're like, you cannot be promoting our product this way. So anyway, the next story, like, chronologically, like in the next story here is Pit and the Pendulum, but I feel like Edgar Allan Poe is something that everyone has read before, so I'm not planning to do that one. I'm going to skip ahead. This is a short one. And it will tie into the fact that I still have my cranch out. This one is called Sawney Beane, the Man-Eater. She's a man-eater. She's a man-eater. Anyway. She's a man-eater. So this is Sawney Beane, the Man-Eater, by Charles Whitehead. Our next narrative presents such a picture of human barbarity that were it not attested by the most unquestionable historical evidence, it would be rejected as altogether fabulous and incredible. It is that of Sawney Beane. This man was born in East Lothian, about 8 miles east of Edinburgh, in the reign of James I of Scotland. His father was a hedger and a ditcher, and brought up his son to the same laborious employment. Naturally idle and vicious, he abandoned that place in company with a young woman equally idle and profligate, and retired to the deserts of Galloway, where they took up their habitation by the seaside. The place which they selected for their dwelling was a cave of about 1 mile in length, and of considerable breadth, so near the sea that the tide often penetrated into the caves above 200 yards. The entry had many intricate windings and turnings, leading to the extremity of the subterraneous dwelling, which was literally the habitation of horrid cruelty. Excuse me, cartoon dog. Excuse me, Mooney. That is cranch. Though Mayo Chup is pretty good too, I will give it that. I think we just started a story about cannibalism. So, that cranch is going to go to use pretty soon. In this cave, they commenced their depredations, and to prevent the possibility of detection, they murdered every person they robbed. Destitute of the means of obtaining any other food, they resolved to live upon human flesh, and accordingly, when they had murdered any man, woman, or child, they carried them to their den, quartered them, salted the limbs, and dried them for food. It is this manner they lived, carrying on their depredations and murder, until they had 8 sons and 6 daughters, 18 grandsons and 14 granddaughters, all of the offspring of incest. Ew, gross. I can excuse cannibalism. I can't excuse incest. Robbing and eating people, just like 2 people just living in a cave and robbing and eating people, that's fine. Power couple winning. But once you start having a House of Usher thing going on, then it's a problem. And hello, Amon Breyer. I am a tiny little blurb today. But though they soon became numerous, yet such was the multitude which fell into their hands, that they had often superabundance of provisions, and would at a distance from their own habitation throw legs and arms of dried human bodies into the sea by night. These were often cast out by the tide, and taken up by the country people, to the great dismay of all the surrounding inhabitants. Nor could any one discover what had befallen the many friends, relations, and neighbors who had unfortunately fallen into the hands of these merciless cannibals. In proportion as Sawney's family increased, every one that was able acted his part in these horrid assassinations. They would sometimes attack 4 or 6 men on foot, but never more than 2 upon horseback. To prevent the possibility of escape, they would lie in ambush in every direction, so that if they escaped the attack of the first, they might be assailed with renewed fury by a second party, and inevitably murdered. By this means they always secured their prey, and prevented detection. At last, however, the vast number who were slain raised the inhabitants of the country, and all the woods and lurking places were carefully searched. Yet, though they often pressed by the mouth of the horrible den, it was never once suspected that any human being resided there. In the state of uncertainty and suspense concerning the authors of such frequent massacres, several innocent travelers and innkeepers were taken up on suspicion, because the persons who were missing had been seen last in their company, or had last resided in their houses. The effect of this well-meant and severe justice constrained the greater part of the innkeepers in those parts to abandon such employments, to the great inconvenience of those who travelled through the district. Times were tough. Times before refrigeration were tough. People were, you know what? I mean, people were just, they were robbing and eating people and making gross, huge, nasty House of Usher families all the way up until like the 40s or the 50s or 60s. I don't know, whenever refrigerators were invented. Once those were invented, everybody went like, okay, we're being civil now. And then they all stored their human meat in the fridge. They stored their human meat in the fridge next to the cranch. Meanwhile, the country became depopulated, and the whole nation was at a loss to account for the numerous and unheard-of villainies and cruelties that were perpetrated, without the slightest clue to the discovery of the abominable actors. At length the horrible scene was terminated in the following manner. One evening a man and wife were riding home upon the same horse from a fair which had been held in the neighbourhood, and being attacked the husband made the most vigorous resistance. His wife, however, was dragged from beneath him, carried to a little distance, and her entrails instantly taken... instantly removes your entrails. I snap my fingers. Boom, your entrails are out. Something finger food. Struck with horror, the husband redoubled his efforts to escape, and even trod some of the assassins down under his horse's feet. Fortunately for him and the inhabitants of that part of the country, in the meantime 20 or 30 in a company came riding home from the fair, but upon their approach Sawney and his bloody crew fled back into the thick wood, and hastened to their infernal den. This man, who was the first that had ever escaped out of their hands, related to his neighbours what had happened, and showed them the mangled body of his wife laying at a distance, the bloodthirsty wretches not having time to carry it along with them. They were all struck with astonishment and horror, took him with them to Glasgow, and reported the whole adventure to the chief magistrate of the city, who upon this information instantly wrote to the king informing him of the matter. Dear Princess Celestia, we have a serious fucking cannibal problem down here. We're gonna need we need some dudes, like, now. We're down a lot. Like, you need to get, King, you need to get some gats down here. We need the boys. We need to get them down here, and we got to take care of this cannibal problem. They're like cockroaches. They're crawling out of the woodwork. In a few days, His Majesty in person, accompanied by 400 men, went in quest of the perpetrators of these horrid cruelties. The man whose wife had been murdered before his eyes went as their guide, with a great number of bloodhounds, that no possible means might be left unattempted to discover the haunt of such execrable villains. They searched the woods and traversed and examined the seashore, but as they passed by the entrance to their cave, some of the bloodhounds entered it, and raising an uncommon barking and noise gave indication that they were about to seize their prey. The king and his men turned, but could scarcely conceive how any human beings could reside in a place of utter darkness, and where the entrance was difficult and narrow. But as the bloodhounds increased their vociferation and refused to return, it occurred to all that the cave ought to be explored to the extremity. Accordingly, a sufficient number of torches were provided, the hounds were permitted to pursue their great course, and a number of men penetrated through the intricacies of the path, and at length arrived at the private entrance of the cannibals. They were followed by all the band, who were shocked to behold a sight unqualled in Scotland, if not any part of the universe. Legs, arms, thighs, hands, and feet. Legs, arms, thighs, hands, and feet. Legs, arms, thighs, hands, and feet. Oh, wait, that's the crank. Now the cranch. Wait, damn it. Fuck it up, cranch. Anyway. I thought you dancing the... I thought you were dancing the cranch intentionally. Gotta put cranch on me. Heinz, hire me. I'll do commercials about putting cranch on human meat. Okay, where were we? Legs, arms, thighs, hands, and feet of men, women, and children were suspended in rows like dried beef. Some limbs and other members were soaked in pickle. And then I put cranch on them. Anyway, while a great mass of money, both of gold and silver, watches, rings, pistols... Gold and silver, watches, rings, pistols, clothes, loaf, linen, and woolen, with an immense quantity of other articles, were either thrown together in heaps or suspended upon the sides of the caves. The whole cruel, brutal family, to the number formerly mentioned, were seized, the human flesh buried in the sands of the seashore, the immense booty carried away. They carried away the immense booty. Immense booty. Anyway, the immense booty carried away. Can't not laugh at immense booty. Yo, the girls love me for my immense booty. They were saving the immense booty for a feast. They were saving that immense booty. That was what the cranch was for. Can you explain the joke? Okay, well, booty tends to mean butt, but it also means, like treasure and stuff. So, like, they were hauling away all the treasure, but they said booty, which also means butt. Which means they hauled away the immense booty. Like a big butt. It's like, you could imagine it like they took a big butt. Anyway. I have to shrink myself down for my... I need a hotkey for this. I need a hotkey to make myself big size. Anyway. The immense booty... The immense booty carried away, and the king marched to Edinburgh with the prisoners. This new and wretched spectacle attracted the attention of the inhabitants, who flocked from all quarters to see, as they passed along, so bloody and unnatural a family, which had increased, in the space of 25 years, to the number of 27 men and 21 women. Arrived in the capital, they were all confined in the toll-booth under strong guard, and were next day conducted to the common place of execution in Leith Walk, and executed without any formal trial, it being deemed unnecessary to try those who were avowed enemies of all mankind and of all social order. The enormity of their crimes dictated the severity of their death. The men had their entrails thrown into the fire, their hands and legs were severed from their bodies, and they were permitted to bleed to death. The wretched mother of the whole crew, the daughters and grandchildren, after being spectators of the death of the men, were cast into 3 separate fires and consumed to ashes. Nor did they in general display any signs of repentance or regret, but continued, with their last breath, to pour forth the most dreadful curses and imprecations upon all around. Consumed, huh? I bet they like that. Like an Excel file for cannibal. I don't know why I'm trying to sound like Sonic. Like an Excel file for cannibalism. Hi, I'm a cannibal, and you're watching Disney Channel. Do. All right, we still got some time. Let's see what's next. Let's see what else. Let's see what's next in this book of Victorian silliness. How long is this next one? Can we do it reasonably within an hour? Yeah, we could do it. Not that long. Yeah, let's go for it. Let's do it. We gotta find more things to put cranch on. I need more things to put cranch on. I'm so hungry. Slur in the plague of slurs. That's no. We decided to whenever they're saying a slur, we replaced it with poop ass fart. When they're like, oh, they were all smoking poop ass farts. Okay, so the next story, after I have a little bit of water here. The next story is called Aurelia, or The Tale of a Ghoul, by E.T.A. Hoffman. By estimated time of arrival, Hoffman. Count Hippolytus had just returned from a long time spent in traveling to take possession of the rich inheritance which his father, recently dead, had left to him. The ancestral home was situated in the most beautiful and charming country imaginable, and the income from the property was amply sufficient to defray the costs of the most extensive improvements. Whatever in the way of architecture and landscape gardening had struck the Count during his travels, particularly in England, as specifically delightful and apposite, he was going to reproduce in his own demise, in his own demesne. It's spelled weird. When are you getting here? Excuse me? Hoffman, when are you getting here? What's your ETA, Mr. Hoffman? Mr. ETA Hoffman, what's your ETA? He was going to reproduce them in his own demesne. Demesne. Hold on. There's been so many words I haven't looked up, even though they're kind of like funny and weird. But this one, I mostly need to know like how it wants me to say it. How the hell? Demesne. What does this mean? Land attached to a manor and retained for the owner's own use. Deman. Oh, it's just deman. Well, that's stupid. Why is it spelled like demesne? Demi? Snee. Dem? Esne. Anyway. Words. Learning vocabulary. Damn ints. Architects, landscape gardeners, and laborers of all sorts arrived on the scene as they were wanted, and there commenced at once a complete reconstruction of the place, whilst an extensive park was laid out on the grandest scale, which involved the including within its boundaries of the church, the parsonage, and the burial ground. All those improvements the Count, who possessed the necessary knowledge, superintended himself, devoting himself to the occupation body and soul, so that a year slipped away without it ever having occurred to him to take an old uncle's advice and let the light of his countenance shine in the residence before the eyes of the young ladies, so that the most beautiful, the best, and the most nobly born amongst them might fall to share as a wife. One morning, as he was sitting at his drawing table sketching the ground plan of a new building, a certain elderly baroness, distantly related to his father, was announced as having come to call. When Hippolytus heard her name, he remembered that his father had always spoken of her with the greatest indignation, nay, with absolute abhorrence, and had often warned people who were going to approach her to keep aloof, without explaining what the danger connected with her was. If he was questioned more closely, he said there were certain matters as to which it was better to keep silence. Thus much was certain, that there were rumors current in the residence of some most remarkable and unprecedented criminal trial in which the Baroness had been involved, which had led to her separation from her husband, driven from her home, which was at some considerable distance, and for the suppression of the consequences of which she was indebted to the prince's forbearance. Hippolytus felt a very painful and disagreeable impression at the coming of a person whom his father so detested, although the reason for his detestation were not known to him. But the laws of hospitality, more binding in the country than in town, obliged him to receive the visit. Oh, you hit kids. Lexicon! I like how this is just... So we got a note saying, yo, this lady's gonna show up, but his dad was like, yo, I hate that lady. That lady, hate her. Absolutely don't want her in my house. But then he died. And his son is like, well, I don't know, my dad hates that lady, but like at the same time, I mean, I gotta be nice. I gotta be nice. I can't just be rude. I gotta offer her some, I gotta offer her some cranch at least. I gotta welcome her in and be like, wouldst thou enjoy a nice flagon of cranch? Never, let's see, never had anyone, without being at an ill-favored in the unusual acception of that term, made by her exterior such a disagreeable impression upon the Count as did this Baroness. When she came in, she looked him through and through with a glance of fire, and then she cast her eyes down and apologized for her coming in terms which were almost over humble. She expressed her sorrow that his father, influenced by prejudices against her, with which her enemies had impregnated his mind, had formed a mortal hatred of her, and though she was almost starving in the depths of her poverty, he had never given her the smallest help or support. As she had now, unexpectedly, as she had said, come into possession of a small sum of money, she had found it possible to leave the residence and go to a small country town a short distance off. However, as she was engaged in this journey, she had not found it possible to resist the desire to see the son of the man whom, notwithstanding his irreconcilable hatred, she had never ceased to regard with feelings of the highest esteem. The tone in which all this was spoken had the moving accents of sincerity, and the Count was all the more affected by it that, having turned his eyes away from her repulsive face, he had fixed them upon a marvellously charming and beautiful creature who was with her. The Baroness finished her speech. The Count did not seem to be aware that she had done so. He remained silent. She begged him to pardon, to attribute to her embarrassment at being where she was, her having neglected to explain that her companion was her daughter Aurelia. On this the Count found words, and blushing up to the eyes implored the Baroness, with the agitation of a young man overpowered by love, to let him atone in some degree for his father's shortcomings, the results of misunderstandings, and to favor him by paying him a long visit. In warmly enforcing this request he took her hand, but the words and the breath died away on his lips, and his blood ran cold, for he felt his hand grasped as if in a vice by fingers cold and stiff as death, and the tall bony form of the Baroness, who was staring at him with eyes evidently deprived of the faculty of sight, seemed to him in its grey, many-tinted attire like some bedizened corpse. 70 proof cranch. So, once again, to just recap, this dude was like, hey, my dad hated your shit. But she shows up and she's got like a hot daughter, and he's like, okay, actually though, I wasn't gonna let you in, but gonna be real with you. Gonna be real with you. You got a real 9 out of 10 here, and I am a Victorian era lonely man, and I'm just saying, if you want to stay here, I'm gonna oh no, I tripped over and fell in my house and my pants fell down. Oh, I sure hope that the the daughter of the woman my dad hates doesn't comes pegs me. I I hope that the probably evil person doesn't comes pegs me. Anyway, whatever. I'm abandoning this joke. I'm leaving this joke on the side of the road. This I'm leaving this joke like at the Humane Society, and I'll let them deal with it. That was awful. I'm sorry. I retract that joke. I retract the joke about my joke. All right, where were we? Oh, good heavens, how unfortunate just at this moment, Aurelia cried out, and went on to lament in a gentle, heart-penetrating voice that her mother was now and then suddenly seized by a tetanic spasm, but that it generally passed off very quickly without it being necessary to take any measures with regard to it. Now the joke is going to a kill shelter. No! No, don't kill the joke. Don't kill it. It doesn't deserve that. Or maybe it does. I don't know. The joke is unfortunately feral, and it's confirmed to have rabies. There's no other option. The joke has to be put down. Hippolytus disengaged himself with some difficulty from the Baroness, and all the glowing life of the sweetest love delight came back to him as he took Aurelia's hand and pressed it warmly to his lips. There's a bug in my book. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing in here? There's like a little fruit fly, and it's like interested in literature. Get out of here. I'm reading. Off with you. He took Aurelia's hand and pressed it warmly to his lips. Although he had almost come to man's estate, it was the first time he had felt the full force of passion, so that it was impossible for him to hide what he felt. And the manner in which Aurelia received his avowal in a noble, simple, childlike delight kindled the fairest hopes within him. The Baroness recovered in a few minutes, and seemingly quite unaware of what had been happening, expressed her gratitude to the Count for his invitation to pay a visit of some duration at the castle, saying she would be but too happy to forget the injustice with which his father had treated her. Can I help you? Can I help you, fruit fly that keeps flying into my book? Go away. Go to the trash. There's stuff in the trash that you can buzz around. Note to self, I should take out the trash. Note to self, I should do dishes too. Thus the Count's household arrangements and the domestic position were completely changed, and he could not but believe that some special favor of fortune had brought him the only woman in all the world who was as warmly beloved and deeply adored wife, was capable of bestowing upon him the highest conceivable happiness. The Baroness's manner of conduct underwent little alteration. She continued to be silent, grave, much wrapped up in herself, and when opportunity offered, evinced a gentle disposition, and a heart disposed towards any innocent enjoyment. The Count had become accustomed to the death-like whiteness of her face, to the very remarkable network of wrinkles which covered it, and to the generally spectral appearance which she displayed. But all this he set down to the invalid condition of her health, and also in some measure to a disposition which she evinced to gloomy romanticism. The servants told him that she often went out for walks in the night-time, through the park of the churchyard. He was much annoyed that his father's prejudices had influenced him to the extent that they had, and the most earnest recommendations of his uncle that he should conquer the feeling which had taken possession of him, and had given him and give up a relationship which much sooner or later drive him to his ruin, had no effect upon him. She's a double succubus. Man, gee, Timmy, your mom lets you have two succubuses? In complete certainty of Aurelia's sincere affection, he asked for her hand, and it may be imagined with what joy the Baroness received this proposal, which transferred her into a lap of luxury from the position of the deepest poverty. The pallor and the strange expression which spoke of some invincible inward pain or trouble had disappeared from Aurelia's face. The blissfulness of love beamed in her eyes and shimmered in roses on her cheeks. On the morning of the wedding day, a terrible event shattered the Count's hopes. The Baroness was found lying on her face dead, not far from the churchyard, and when the Count was looking out of his window on getting up, full of bliss and happiness which he had attained, her body was being brought back to the castle. He supposed she was only in one of her usual attacks, but all the efforts to bring her back to life were ineffectual. She was dead. Aurelia, instead of giving way to violent grief, seemed rather to be struck dumb and tearless by this blow, which appeared to have a paralyzing effect on her. The Count was much distressed for her, and only ventured, most cautiously and most gently, to remind her that her orphan condition rendered it necessary that conventionalities should be in disregard, and that the most essential matter in the circumstances was to hasten on the marriage as much as possible, notwithstanding the loss of her mother. At this, Aurelia fell into the Count's arms, and whilst a flood of tears ran down her cheeks, cried in a most eager manner, and in a voice which was shrill with urgency, "Yes, yes, for the love of all the saints, for the sake of my soul's salvation, yes!" The Count ascribed this burst of emotion to the bitter sense that, in her orphaned condition, she did not know whither to betake herself, seeing that she could not go on staying in the castle. He took pains to procure a worthy matron as a companion for her, till in the few weeks the wedding day again came around. And this time no mischance interfered with it, and it crowned the bliss of Aurelia and Hippolytus. But Aurelia had this while been in a curiously strained and excited condition. It was not grief for her mother, but she seemed to be unceasingly and without cessation, tortured by some inward anxiety. Yo, girl, me too. In the midst of the most delicious love passage, she would suddenly clasp the Count in her arms, pale as death, and like a person suddenly seized by some terror, just as if she were trying her very utmost to resist some extraneous power which was threatening to force her to her destruction, and would cry, "Oh no, never, never!" Now that she was married, however, it seemed that this strange, overstrained, excited condition in which she had been abated had left her, and the terrible inward anxiety and disturbance under which she had been laboring seemed to disappear. The Count could not but suspect the existence of some secret evil mystery by which Aurelia's inner being was tormented, but he very properly thought it would be unkind and unfeeling to ask her about it whilst her excitement lasted, and she herself avoided any explanation on the subject. However, a time came when he thought he might venture to hint gently that perhaps it would be well if she indicated to him the cause of the strange condition of her mind. She herself at once said it would be a satisfaction to her to open her mind to him, her beloved husband, and great was his amazement to learn that what was at the bottom of the mystery was the atrociously wicked life which her mother had led, that was so perturbing her mind. "Can there be anything more terrible," she said, than to I can read, I promise. "Than to have to hate, detest, and abhor one's own mother." Thus the prejudices, as they were called, of his father and uncle had not been unfounded, and the Baroness had deceived him in the most deliberate manner. He was obligated to confess to himself, and he made no secret of it, that it was fortunate circumstance that the Baroness had died on the morning of his wedding day. But Aurelia declared that as soon as her mother was dead she had been seized by dark and terrible terrors, and could not help thinking that her mother would rise from her grave and drag her from her husband's arms into perdition. She said she dimly remembered one morning when she was a mere child being awakened by a frightful commotion in the house. Doors opened and shut, strangers' voices cried out in confusion, at last things becoming quieter. Her nurse took her in her arms and carried her into a large room where there were many people, and the man who had often played with her and given her sweetmeats lying stretched on a long table. This man she had always called Papa, and she stretched her hands out to him and wanted to kiss him, but his lips, always warm before, were as cold as ice, and Aurelia broke into a violent weeping without knowing why. The nurse took her into a strange house, where she remained a long while, till at last a lady came and took her away in a carriage. This was her mother, who soon after took her to the residence. When Aurelia got to be about 16, a man came to the house whom her mother welcomed joyfully, and treated with such confidentiality, receiving him with much intimacy of friendship, as being a dear old friend. He came more and more frequently, and the Baroness's style of existence was soon greatly altered for the better. Instead of living in an attic, and subsisting on the poorest of fare, and wearing the most wretched old clothes, she took a fine lodging in the most fashionable quarter, wore fine dresses, ate and drank with this stranger of the best and most expensive food, and drink daily (he was her daily guest), and took her part in all the public pleasurings which the residence had to offer. I have a bad feeling of how this is going to end. I think I know where this is going. And if it's going where I think it's going, this is going to be gross. Aurelia was the person upon whom this bettering of her mother's circumstances, evidently attributable solely to the stranger, exercised no influence whatsoever. She remained shut up in her room when her mother went out to enjoy herself in the stranger's company, and was obliged to live just as miserably as before. This man, though about 40, had a very fresh and youthful appearance, a tall, handsome person, and a face by no means devoid of a certain amount of manly good looks. Notwithstanding this, he was repugnant to Aurelia on account of his style and behavior. He seemed to try and constrain himself, to conduct himself like a gentleman, and person of some cultivation, but there was constantly and most evidently piercing through his exterior veneer the unmistakable evidence of his being a totally uncultured person. This dude, totally uncultured, doesn't even drink his cranch. Being a totally uncultured person whose manners and habits were those of the very lowest ranks of people, and the way in which he began to look at Aurelia filled her with terror, nay, with an abhorrence of which she could not explain the reason to herself. Up to this point, the Baroness had never taken the trouble to say a single word to Aurelia about this stranger, but now she told her his name, adding that this Baron was a man of great wealth and distant relation. She lauded his good looks and his various delightful qualities, and ended by asking Aurelia if she thought she could bring herself to take a liking to him. Gross. Aurelia made no secret of the inward detestation which she felt for him. The Baroness darted a glance of lightning at her, which terrified her excessively, and told her that she was a foolish, ignorant creature. After this she was kinder to her than she had ever been before. She was provided with grand dresses in the height of fashion, and taken to share in all the public pleasures. Oh, there was a raid! Oh man, I didn't hear the raid thing go off. There was a raid. Wait a minute. There was a raid. I thought I said a little. Oh, I thought I said a little funny little noise to go off, but it didn't go off. Nuts. But hello, raiders. Hello. Welcome. I haven't streamed in a while, but I am now. This stream snuck up on me. There was an alert, right? Did it at least show up on screen? I hope the alert at least showed up on screen. But yeah, welcome. I am Dunwich Sandwich, aka Dunny. I do read streams. I do the occasional art stream. But most of the time, I'm just chilling. I'm just here chilling. And tonight we are reading from a book of penny dreadfuls. Hey, Sandwich, it's good to see you again. Hello, Worlds of Confusion. It's good to see you again. The raid snuck up on me. But yes, we've been reading some old penny dreadfuls, and the current story we're reading, I think it might end real gross, but I'm not sure yet. Some of these stories have had a little bit of an element of gross, but this one might be gross. I'm not sure. There's also been a running joke that, because there was a story about werewolves, and I started making jokes about carving up werewolf meat and and about drowning it in cranch. So that's why there's a cranch bottle here, just in case there's more things to put cranch on. Just in case we need to put cranch on things. I also have a gun, just in case. I don't know what it's for, but I just have it. I have other PNG tuber models that I use. I kind of just whipped this one up real quick today because I wanted to make a new one. But yeah, so welcome. I hope you enjoy your stay here at my wonderful chair. I really like this model. It's very shaped. So do I. I wanted to make like a little slime version of the character that I've been my self insert I've been drawing on Twitter the last couple of days. But anyway, so let's get back to it. Let's hop back in. So for those just joining us, I believe the way this story has gone so far is we have a young, rich, noble guy who inherited land from his father, and his father often told him, hey, there's this baroness who's like a awful old crone and I hate her. Don't let her in. And now the dad is dead, and our protag gets word that this baroness is going to be visiting, and he's like, well, I don't know, my dad hates your shit and he absolutely wants me to tell you off, but I gotta be nice. I gotta have my manners. My dad hates you, but I gotta hold my manners. I gotta be a nice person. So he lets her in. She stays. She also brings her like hot 9 out of 10 daughter. And our boy has like never seen a girl before in his life, and he's just like, girl. And they get married. And now this old crone baroness has died, but our protag's girl, our girl here is like, yo, I feel hella mad anxiety right now. Something darks. I've got these mean intrusive thoughts right now. And so now we're kind of digging into like her backstory with her mother and how the Baroness is like kind of a butthole and always has been. And our protag is like, oh, okay, so she was a horrible old crone. And the girl's like, yeah, she actually super was. And he's like, oh, and I thought she was nice because, hot daughter that I let stay here because I wanted the booby. Anyway, so that ought to be good enough, right? That tells you everything you need to know. So where were we? Hates the weird guy that the Baroness was always bringing around. There we go. Let's see. The Baroness darted a glance of lightning at her, which terrified her excessively, and told her she was a foolish, ignorant creature. After this, she was kinder to her than she had ever been before. She was provided with grand dresses in the height of fashion, and taken to share in all the public pleasures. The man now strove to gain her favor in a manner which rendered him more and more abhorrent to her. But her delicate maidenly instincts were wounded in the most mortal manner, when an unfortunate accident rendered her an unwilling secret witness of an abominable atrocity between her abandoned and depraved mother and him. Ew! So she, like, walked in on her. Ew! Ew! She, like, walked in on them doing stuff. At least that's the way I'm taking that. When, a few days after, this man, after having taken a good deal of wine, clasped Aurelia in his arms in a way which left no doubt as to his intention, her desperation gave her strength, and she pushed him from her so that he fell down on his back. She rushed away and bolted herself in her room. The Baroness told her very calmly and deliberately that, inasmuch as the Baron paid all the household expenses, she had not the slightest intention of going back to the old poverty of their previous life. This was a case in which any absurd coyness would be both ludicrous and inconvenient, and that she would really have to make up her mind to comply with the Baron's wishes, because if not, he had threatened to part company at once, instead of being affected by Aurelia's bitter tears and agonized entreaties. The old woman, breaking into the most brazen and shameless laughter, talked in the most depraved manner of a state of matters which would cause Aurelia to bid forever farewell to every feeling of enjoyment of life in such unrestrained and detestable depravity, defying and insulting all sense of ordinary propriety, so that her shame and terror were undescribable, and that she was obliged to hear. In fact, she gave herself up for lost, and her only means of salvation appeared to be her immediate flight. Right? Kurt's, like, all I'm seeing is just the little frowny face in chat, and I'm like, yeah. Yeah. Oh, boy. We're reading old-timey books, so naturally some barbaric fucking shit's gonna happen. Ay, 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 ay. She managed to possess herself of the key of the ball door, had gotten together the few little necessities which she absolutely required, and just after midnight was moving softly through the dimly lighted front hall, at a time when she thought her mother was sure to be fast asleep. She was on the point of stepping quietly out into the street, when the door opened with a clang, and heavy footsteps came noisily up the steps. The Baroness came staggering and stumbling out in the hall, right up to Aurelia's feet, nothing upon her but a kind of miserable wrapper all covered with dirt. Her breast and her arms naked, her grey hair all hanging down and dishevelled, and close after her came the stranger, who seized her by the hair and dragged her into the middle of the hall, crying out in a yelling voice, "Wait, you old devil, you witch of hell! You serve you up a wedding breakfast!" And with a good thick cudgel which he had in his hand, to set to, a belabored and maltreated her in the most shameful manner. This sucks. Yeah, exactly. No filter. Just a long-winded way to imply the horrendous. Yeah, this is... Oh, boy. Oh, this is getting bad. Oh, boy. Oh, I gotta tell you, this is getting rough. Oh, boy. It chanced there was a patrol of an armed police just passing. The men came at once into the house. "Seize him!" cried the Baroness, writhing in convulsions of rage and pain. "Seize him! Hold him fast! Look at his bare back! He's—" When the police sergeant heard the Baroness speak the name, he shouted out in the greatest delight, "Ho, ho! We've got you at last, Devil Elias! Have we?" And in spite of his violent resistance, they marched him off. But notwithstanding all this which had been happening, the Baroness had understood well enough what Aurelia's idea had been. She contented herself with taking her somewhat roughly by the arm, pushing her into her room and locking her up in it, without saying a word. She went out early the next morning and did not come back till late evening, and during this time Aurelia remained a prisoner in her room. Time for our other stream tradition, changing of the book. Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea. Let me check something real quick. Creatures like fall. No, it's not. Shut up. Fuck you. This is all your fault. You're younger than me. And Baroness grants you the way. Can't cast. Darker skill. Wait, Doctor skill. What are we talking about? Okay, so I'm pretty sure the ending to this is that the evil old crone, like, is a ghost and, like, possesses her to, like, kill the protag. Yeah, it's getting a little yikes, so I'm like, yeah, we're gonna skip it. Or I'm gonna skip to the end. But like I said, I think, though, to be fair, I think we were all kind of seeing that coming. It's like, like, that it had to be some part of, like, a long con to in order to enact revenge. I'm pretty sure, because, like, I think it was that she, like, possesses her daughter or something to kill this guy, because I'm assuming that there's an even more gross, like old boy situation here, where, like, these two, the protag and the girl, are probably related in some way through this old woman, and it's just awful and bad and yikes. So we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on from that. We're gonna do something else now. we're gonna move on. We're moving on now. Anyway, so let me check this one. How long is this? Can I do this in like a half hour? You know what? I can swing it. All right. Let's hope this one works out a little better, y'all. I'm going to take a drip of water. All right, one more. Let's hope this works out. This one is called Wake Not the Dead, or The Bride of the Grave, by Johan Ludwig Tieck. Wake not the dead, they bring but gloomy night, and cheerless desolation into day, for in the grave who mouldering lay, no more can feel the influence of light, or yield them to the sun's prolific might. Let them repose within their house of clay, corruption vainly wilt thou essay. To quicken it sends forth a pestilent blight, and neither fiery sun nor bathing dew, nor breath of spring the dead can renew, that which from life that which from life is plucked becomes the foe of life, and whoso wakes it waketh woe. Seek not the dead to waken from that sleep, in which from mortal eye they lie enshrouded deep. It was pretty solid for a bit there, yeah, and then I stumbled over it. For people just joining us, I will trip over my words frequently. I can read. I never said I could read well. Anyway. Wilt thou forever sleep? Wilt thou never more awake, my beloved, but henceforth repose forever from thy short pilgrimage on earth? O yet once again return, and bring back with thee the vivifying dawn of hope, to one whose existence hath, since thy departure, been obscured by the dunnest shades. Well, yo, it's spelled D-U-N-N-E-S. The dunnest shades. That's me. I'm the dunnest shades. It's shades of me. Anyway. What dumb, forever What dumb, forever dumb? What, dumb, forever dumb? Thy friend lamenteth, and thou heedest him not. He sheds bitter, scalding tears, and thou repost unregarding his affliction. He is in despair, and thou no longer openest thy arms to him as an asylum from his grief. Say then doth the Palais shroud become thee better than a bridal veil? Is the chamber of the grave warmer bed than the couch of love? Is the spectre death more welcome to thy arms than thy enamored consort? Oh, return, my beloved, return once again to this anxious and disconsolate bosom. Such were the lamentations which Walter poured forth from his Brunhilde, for his Brunhilde, the partner of his youthful, passionate love. Thus did he bewail over her grave at the midnight hour. What time the spirit that presides in the troublous atmosphere sends his legions of monsters through mid-air, so that their shadows, as they flit beneath the moon and across the earth, dart as wild, agitating thoughts that chase each other over the sinner's bosom. Thus did he lament under the tall linden trees by her grave, while his head reclined on the cold stone. Some of that old-timey loves, though. This is gonna have some of that old-timey love. This is gonna have some of that old-timey love where he's gonna be like, oh man, my dead girlfriend, my dead wife, oh, I love her so much, but now she's dead and now I'm sad. Yo, this sucks. Anyway. Walter was a powerful lord in Burgundy, who, in his earliest youth, had been smitten with the charms of the fair Brunhilde, a beauty far surpassing in loveliness all her rivals, for her tresses, dark as the raven face of night, streaming over her shoulders, set off to the utmost advantage the beaming lustre of her slender form, and the rich dye of a cheek whose tint was deep and brilliant as that of the western heaven. Her eyes did not resemble those burning orbs whose pale glow gems the vault of night, and whose immeasurable distance fills the soul with deep thoughts of eternity, but rather as the sober beams which cheer this nether world, and which, while they enlighten, kindle the sons of earth to joy and love. Brunhilde became the wife of Walter, and both being equally enamored and devoted, they abandoned themselves to the enjoyment of a passion that rendered them reckless of aught besides, while it lulled them into a fascinating dream. Their sole apprehension was lest aught should awaken them from the delirium which they prayed might continue forever. Yet how vain is the wish that they would arrest the decrees of destiny. As well might seek it to divert the circling planets from their eternal course. Short was the duration of this frenzied passion, not that it gradually decayed and subsided into apathy, but death snatched away his blooming victim, and left Walter to a widowed couch. Impetuous, however, as was his first burst of grief, he was not inconsolable, for ere long another bride became the partner of the youthful nobleman. Man, I miss my wife. She was so cool. We did a bunch of crazy shit, and then she fucking died, and now I'm all sad. But it's okay. I'm gonna make my own wife with blackjack and hookers. I'm gonna get another wife. We're gonna go down to the wife pound, and I'm just gonna pick up another wife. This was a good joke. Everybody laugh. Everybody do it now. I demand it. Do it. Now I'm gonna. You know what? Hell to this. I'm gonna be my own damn wife. That's the gender goal. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be my own damn wife. I'll be my own husband and wife. That's what I'll do. Oh man, I'm learning something about myself. This is a story how I learned I was gender fluid. Anyway. Swanhilda also was beautiful, although nature had formed her charms on a very different model from those of Brunhilde. I'm trading up to a new model of wife. I had the Brunhilde before. I'm upgrading to the Swanhilde. It's got its flaws, but I think it's got some stuff that makes it worthwhile. It's a good wife. It's a good reliable wife. I'm always gonna miss that early Brunhilde. That one could really go. That's the one that got me. It was my first one. Got me where I needed to go. But sometimes it wears out. And you gotta get a new one. So I think in that regard, you could do a lot worse. But I'm just saying, I hopefully I will not have to take another wife in the future. I think this one's gonna stay around. I think this is gonna work out. Solidly built to last. It's got a Ford Hemi in there. Anyway. Once again, this was a funny joke. Everyone laugh at it now. Swanhilda was also beautiful, although nature had formed her charms on a very different model from those of Brunhilde. Her golden locks waved bright as the beams of morn. Only when excited by some emotion of her soul did a rosy hue tinge the lily paleness of her cheek. Her limbs were proportioned in the nicest symmetry, yet did they not possess that luxuriant fullness of animal life. Her eye beamed eloquently, but it was with the milder radiance of a star, tranquilizing to tenderness rather than exciting to warmth. Thus formed, it was not possible that she should steep him in his former delirium, although she rendered happy his waking hours, tranquil, yet serious, yet cheerful, studying in all things her husband's pleasure. She restored order and comfort in his family, where her presence shed a general influence all around. Her mild benevolence tended to restrain the fiery, impetuous disposition of Walter, while at the same time her prudence recalled him in some degree from his vain, turbulent wishes, and his aspirings after unattainable enjoyments to the duties and pleasures of actual life. Swanhilda bore her husband 2 children, a son and daughter. The latter was mild and patient as her mother, well contented with her solitary sports, and even in these recreations displayed the serious turn of her character. The boy possessed his father's fiery, restless disposition, tempered, however, with the solidity of his mother. Attached by his offspring more tenderly towards their mother, Walter now lived for several years very happily. His thoughts would frequently indeed recur to Brunhilde, but without their former violence, merely as we dwell upon the memory of a friend of our earlier days, borne from us the rapid concurrent of time to a region where we know that he is happy. But clouds dissolve into air, flowers fade, the sands of the hourglass run imperceptibly away, and even so do human feelings dissolve, fade, and pass away, and with them too, human happiness. Slaps the roof of my wife. Slap through for my wife. You can fit so much gender in this wife. You can fit so much gender in this wife. Slaps my own ass. I can fit so much gender in this ass. Walter's inconstant breast again sighed for the ecstatic dreams of those days which we had spent with his equally romantic, enamored Brunhilde. Again did she present herself to his ardent fancy in all the glow of her bridal charms, and he began to draw a parallel between the past and the present. Nor did imagination, as its wont, fail to array the former in her brightest hues, while it proportionally obscured the latter, so that he pictured to himself the one much more rich in enjoyment, and the other much less so than they really were. The change in her husband did not escape Swanhilda, whereupon, redoubling her attentions towards him, and her cares towards her children, she expected by this means to reunite the knot that was slackened. Yet the more she endeavored to regain his affections, the colder did he grow. The more intolerable did her caresses seem, the more continually did the image of Brunhilde haunt his thoughts. The children, whose endearments were now become indispensable to him, alone stood between the parents as genii eager to effect a reconciliation, and beloved by them both, formed a uniting link between them. Yet as evil can be plucked from the heart of a man only ere its root has yet struck deep, its fangs being afterwards too firm to be eradicated, so was Walter's diseased fancy too far affected to have its disorder stopped, for in a short time it's completely tyrannized over him. Frequently of a night, instead of retiring to his consort's chamber, he repaired to Brunhilde's grave, where he murmured forth his discontent, saying, "Wilt thou sleep forever?" This isn't a beer barrel, this is gender fluid. I need sorry, my nose is itchy. I need like a boomer fishing shirt that says that. This ain't a beer belly, this is gender fluid right here. This is gender fluid and a little bit of cranch. One night, as he was reclining on the turf, indulging in his wonted sorrow, a sorcerer from the neighboring mountains entered into his field of death for his purpose of gathering for mystic spells such herbs as grow only from the earth within the dead repose, and which, as if the last production of mortality, are gifted with powerful and supernatural influence. The sorcerer perceived the mourner and approached the spot where he was lying. "Wherefore, fond wretch, dost thou grieve thus for what is now a hideous mass of mortality, mere bones and nerves and veins? Nations have fallen unlamented, even worlds themselves, long ere this globe of ours was created, have mouldered into nothing, nor hath any one wept over them. Why then shouldst thou indulge this vain affliction for a child of the dust, a being as frail as myself, and like thee being the creature but of a moment?" Walter raised himself up. "What the fuck are you talking about?" No. What the hell did you just say? What the hell are you talking about? I didn't understand a word of that. What the hell was that? "Let yon worlds that shine in the firmament," replied he, "lament for each other as they perish. It is true that I am myself clay, lament for my fellow clay. Yet it is this clay impregnated with a fire, with an essence that none of the elements of creation possess, with love, and this divine passion I felt for her who now sleepeth beneath this sod." "Will thy complaints awaken her, or could they do so? Would she not soon upbraid thee for having disturbed that repose of which she is now hushed? Avaunt, cold-hearted being, thou knowest not what is love. Oh, that my tears could wash away the earthly covering that conceals her from these eyes, that my groan of anguish could rouse her from the slumber of death. No, she would not again seek her earthly couch." Man, I miss my first wife. She's, sometimes when you have that second wife, you just think about the first one and you're like, man, I miss that first one. That was the one that did it for me. It's just nothing else drives quite like that old Ford Hemi. that old Ford Hemi wife that I used to have. This new one, I mean, I guess it's all fine. It's newfangled. It's got them seat warmers. It's got like it's got adjustable cup holders. I mean, this wife, you know, it comes with the anti-lock brakes and the, you know, it's got the auto lights. But you know, it's just not the same. You know, I miss that first wife. It's actually kind of back from AFK. Why do we have Cranch now? Oh boy, Seti, you miss so much. I've had an ongoing running joke that I'm gonna eat cryptids with ranch on them. There was a story about werewolves, and I was like, I'm gonna cut off a hunk of that werewolf and I'm gonna eat it with the side of ranch, with the side of cranch. The current story we're reading, I believe that we don't know where it's going yet, but it's a guy who's like, I miss my wife. I had a good time with my wife. Oh yeah, no, wait, Mothman's a cryptid? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, homie. Homie, Mothman's going on that grill. I'm cooking up a Mothman rump roast, don't you doubt it. I will eat Mothman. Not even in like a hot way, but like in a way where I like got barbecue sauce and like a knife and fork. I want to eat the cryptids. I want to know what they taste like. Anyway, the story we're reading is a guy whose wife died and he can't get over it. That's it. And he's on his second wife, and the second wife is like, "Hey, could you love me?" And he's like, "No, I miss my old dead wife, and I want her back." Where were we? I miss my wife. Yeah, and there's like a sorcerer, a quote unquote sorcerer here who's basically going like, "Yo, she dead though," and our boy's like, "Yeah, but like, what if she wasn't?" And he's like, "Yeah, but she is," and he's like, "Okay, but what if she wasn't?" Let's see. Insensate that thou art, and couldst thou endure to gaze without shuddering upon one disgorged from the jaws of the grave? Art thou to thyself the same from whom she parted, or hath time passed o'er thy brow and left no traces there? Would not thy love rather be converted into hate and disgust? Say rather that the stars would leave yon firmament, that the sun will henceforth refuse to shed its beams through the heavens. Oh, that she stood once more before me, that once again she reposed on this bosom. How quickly should we then forget the death or time that had ever stepped between us? By the way, can we talk about the fact that, like, in these stories we've read, they keep using ejaculated, impregnated, and bosom, like, a lot. But, like, in the old-timey way and not, like, the modern way. But it's still, like, weird to see sometimes. Delusion, mere delusion of the brain, from heated blood, like to that which arises from the fumes of wine. It is not my wish to tempt thee, to restore thee to thy dead, else wouldst thou feel I have spoken truth. Are we sure these old-timey writers aren't horny? I am 100% certain they're horny. Only the women. Only the women who wrote these things were horny. Look, in old Victorian times, what was there to do? Push a hoop with a stick? Sometimes all you could do was you just get to banging, because that's like all you got. And I guess there were books, but like, I'm just saying, what else are you gonna do? Two people in Victorian times watching a bird cage with a bird in it, and at some point they're like, God, can we just go for it? Anyway, "How, restore her to me," exclaimed Walter, casting himself at the sorcerer's feet. "Oh, if thou art indeed able to effect that, grant it to my earnest supplication. If one throb of human Yo, when you get that throb of human feeling. If one throb of human feeling vibrates in thy bosom, let thy tears prevail with thee. Restore to me my beloved, so shalt thou hereafter bless the deed, and see that it is and see that it was a good work." "A good work, a blessed indeed," returned the sorcerer with a smile of scorn. For me there exists nor good nor evil, since my will is always the same. Ye alone know evil, who will that which ye would not. It is indeed in my power to restore her to thee, yet bethink thee well, whether it will prove thy weal. Consider too how deep the abyss between life and death. Across this my power can build a bridge, but it can never fill up the frightful chasm. Dude, that's fucked. Sorcerer, dude, that's fucked, bro. Walter would have spoken, and have sought to prevail on this powerful being by fresh entreaties, but the latter prevented him, saying, Peace, bethink thee well, and return hither to me tomorrow at midnight. Yet once more I do warn thee, wake not the dead. Having uttered these words, the mysterious being disappeared. Intoxicated with fresh hope, Walter found no sleep on his couch, for fancy prodigal... Also, there's a lot of couches. They have a lot of couches in Victorian times. Nobody's gotten into a damn bed. It's always a couch. Sorcerer is just like, hey, I'll do it, but you don't want this, I'm telling you. Man, see, this is what happens when you think you're old. You're going to get your old car back, and you think it's going to be great, and then you get back in, you're like, oh, shit. There's a reason why I traded up. Anyway, having uttered these words, the mysterious being disappeared. Intoxicated with fresh hope, Walter found no sleep on his couch, for fancy, prodigal of her richest stores, expanded before him the glittering web of purity, and his eye, moistened with the dew of rapture, glanced from one vision of happiness to another. During the next... Oh, excuse me. Hiccups. During the next day, he wandered through the woods, lest wanted objects by recalling the memory of later and less happier times might disturb the blissful idea that he should again behold her, again fold her in his arms, gaze on her beaming brow by day, repose on her bosom by night. And as this sole idea filled his imagination, how was it possible that the least doubt should rise, or that warning of the mysterious old man should recur to his thoughts? No sooner did the midnight hour approach, that he hastened before the grave field, where the sorcerer was already standing by that of Brunhilde. Hast thou maturely considered? Inquired he. Did you really think about this? Are you really sure? I can do it, but I really don't think you want me to do it. I don't know. I'm just telling you, you know. I'm gonna bring her back, and she's gonna be like a fucking ghoul or something. And I'm just telling you, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. You're gonna have a problem when I do this. I'm assuming you're not listening to me, and you just want that ass back. But I'm telling you, that ass is gonna be like evil. that wife is gonna be evil as shit. She's gonna come back and she's gonna be like, I got demons. She got a butthole full of demons. Anyway. Oh, restore to me the object of my ardent passion, exclaimed Walter with impetuous eagerness. Delay not thy generous action, lest I die even this night, consumed with the disappointed desire, and behold her face no more. Well then, answered the old man, return hither again tomorrow at the same hour. But once more do I give thee this friendly warning, wake not the dead. All in the despair of impatience, Walter would have prostrated himself at his feet and supplicated him to fulfill at once a desire now increased to agony. But the sorcerer had already disappeared. Sorcerer was like, hey, meet me tomorrow night if you want to do this. And then he shows up and he's like, I still want to do this. And the sorcerer is like, okay, meet me tomorrow night and we'll do this. Fuck this shit, I'm out. 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 I don't really know what just happened, and I don't really care. I'ma get the fuck up out of here. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Yo, Mr. White, you're not really gonna like it when I bring your wife back, Mr. White. It's not gonna work the way you want, Mr. White. Yo, Mr. White,
I'm gonna bring back your wife, but it's not gonna work out the way you want it to, Mr. White. She's gonna be fucking evil, Mr. White. Let's see. Right. Pouring forth his lamentations more vividly and impetuously than ever, he lay upon the grave of his adored one until the grey dawn streaked the east. During the day, which seemed to him longer than any he had ever experienced, he wandered to and fro, restless and impatient, seemingly without any object, and deeply buried in his own reflections, in quiet as the murderer who meditates his first deed of blood. And the stars of the evening found him once more at the appointed spot. At midnight, the sorcerer was there also. Yo, Mr. White, hast thou yet maturely deliberated? Inquired he. As on the preceding night? On what should I deliberate, Jesse? Jesse, what should I deliberate? I want my wife back. Returned Walter impatiently. I need not deliberate. What I demand of thee is that which thou hast promised me, that which will prove my bliss, or dost thou but mock me? If so, hence from my sight, lest I be tempted to lay my hand on thee. Once more do I warn thee, answered Jesse. Answered the old man with undisturbed composure. Wake not the dead, let her rest. Okay. I try not to use the B slur, right? But I'm gonna use it just this one time with the Jesse voice, okay? I'm sorry, it's just for this one bit. Wake not the dead, let her rest, bitch. just once in the context of this being Jesse. Okay, anyway. Aye, but not in the cold grave. She shall rather rest on this bosom which burns with eagerness to clasp her. Reflect thou mayest not quit until death, even though aversion and horror should seize thy heart. There would remain only one horrible means. Dotard! Jesse! Cried Walter, interrupting him. How may I hate that which I love with such intensity of passion? How should I abhor that which every drop of blood is boiling? Thou be it even as thou wishest, answered the sorcerer. Step back. Walter would definitely call Jesse a dotard. Jesse, you fucking dotard. Bring back my wife. The old man now drew a circle round the grave, all the while muttering words of enchantment. Immediately the storm began to howl among the tops of the trees, owls flapping their wings and uttered their low voice of omen. The stars hid their mild, beaming aspect, that they might not behold so unholy and impious a spectacle. My wife. My wife. My wife! And then, as they're standing in this graveyard, they suddenly hear, the law of alchemy is equivalent exchange. There must be equal reaction. I forget the bit from Full Metal Alchemist, but you know the joke I'm trying to make. That they might not behold so unholy and impious a spectacle. The stone then rolled from the grave with a hollow sound, leaving a free passage for the inhabitant of that dreadful tenement. The sorcerer scattered into the yawning earth roots and herbs of most magic power and of most penetrating odor, so that the worms crawling forth from the earth congregated together and raised themselves in a fiery column over the grave, whilst rushing wind burst from the earth, scattering the mold before it, until at length the coffin lay uncovered. The moonbeams fell upon it, and the lid burst open with a tremendous sound. Upon this the sorcerer poured upon it some blood from out of a human skull, exclaiming at the same time, Drink, sleeper, of this warm stream, that thy heart may again beat within thy bosom. Bitch.
And after a short pause, shedding on her some other mystic liquid, he cried aloud with the voice of one inspired, "Yes, thy heart beats once more with the flood of life. It beats once more with the flood of life, Mr. White. Thine eye is again opened to sight. Arise, therefore, from thy tomb." As an island suddenly springs forth from the dark waves of the ocean, raised upwards from the deep by the force of subterraneous fires, so did Brunhilde start to form from her earthly couch. Everything is a couch. There are no beds, only couches. This is the only thing to lay on and sleep on, is goddamn couches. No beds weren't invented yet. My nose is so itchy. Why am my nose so itchy? Taking her by the hand, the sorcerer led her towards Walter, who stood at some little distance, rooted to the ground with amazement. They're all half couches, so you can get all crampy. "Receive again," said he, "the object of thy passionate delights. Mayst thou never more require my aid. Should that, however, happen, so wilt thou find me during the full of the moon upon the mountains in that spot." And this is turning into an entirely different voice. This is turning into like a bad what's the guy Christopher Walken impression. "Thou should that, however, happen, thou should find me during the full of the moon upon the mountains in which that spot and where the three roads meet." Instantly did Walter recognize in the form that stood before him her whom he had so ardently loved, and sudden glow shot through his frame at finding her thus restored to him. Yet the night frost had chilled his limbs and palsied his tongue. For a while he gazed upon her without either motion or speech, and during this pause all was again become hushed and serene, and the stars shone brightly in the clear heavens. "Walter!" exclaimed the figure, and at once the well-known sound thrilling to his heart broke the spell by which he was bound. "Is it reality? Is it truth?" cried he. "Or a cheating delusion? Is this the real life, or is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide, no escape from reality." "No, it is no imposture. I am really living. Conduct me quickly to thy castle in the mountains." "All right, I'm up. I'm alive. Take me home. We got a lot of weird, nasty sex to catch up on." Walter looked around. The old man had disappeared, but he perceived close by his side a coal-black steed of fiery eye, ready equipped to conduct him thence, and on his back lay all proper attire for Brunhilde, who lost no time in arraying herself. This being done, she cried, "Haste, let us away ere the dawn breaks, for my eye is yet too weak to endure the light of day." Fully recovered from his stupor, Walter leapt into the saddle, and catching up with a mingled feeling of delight and awe, the beloved being thus mysteriously restored from the power of the grave, he spurred on across the wild towards the mountains, and furiously as if pursued by shadows of the dead, hastening to recover from him their sister. The castle to which Walter conducted his Brunhilde was situated on a rock between other rocks. Hey, I'm looking for this castle. Oh, it's situated near that rock between the other rocks. Oh man, you only have one dick. Demon King had like 45. Yo, I heard that guy had like 30 goddamn dicks. Situated on a rock between the other rocks rising up above it. Here they arrived, unseen by any, save one aged domestic, on whom Walter imposed secrecy by the severest threats. "Here we will tarry," said Brunhilde, "until I can endure the light, and until thou canst look upon me without trembling, as if struck with a cold chill." How much longer is this? I'm really hungry. I'm like really, really hungry. Go eat. I probably will. I'm trying to like, let's see. Hold on a second. I'm gonna check something. I'm gonna check something. Is there cliff notes on it? Can I get a cliff notes on this? Enjoy your cringe. Hold on. Field trip. Wake not the dead. Oh, here we go. Here we go. we can hammer this out real fast now. Walter, okay, a plot. Walter, a powerful lord in Burgundy, mourns the death of his wife Brunhilde. He marries another woman, Swanhilde, but despite having 2 children together, he remains fixated on his first wife. One night, while at the grave of Brunhilde, he meets a wandering sorcerer who says he can bring her back to life, but warns him that it will have a terrible effect. Horrible, debilitating gas. And departs, telling Walter how to find him if he needs his help. Walter takes Brunhilde to one of his castles and swears the one servant there to secrecy. He returns there often, and once she recovers, he longs to press her to his bosom, but she refuses while he remains married to Swanhilde. Walter gives Swanhilde a paper of separation. She accepts this, saying that she saw him bring Brunhilde back to life, and tells him that it will prove to be his downfall before returning to her father. Brunhilde is then brought back, pretending to be Walter's new wife, but the servants become suspicious. A rumor starts that it is Brunhilde herself brought back from the grave, and many start to leave. Her renewed life causes Brunhilde to thirst for the blood of the oh, she's a vampire! And many of the children in the surrounding area start to wither and die. The parents of the remaining children flee, leaving only servants, Walter and his 2 children. Brunhilde lulls them to sleep with wonderful dreams and feeds on them, gradually killing them. Damn. Walter is appalled, but remains under her spell. She tries at first to resist feeding on him, but soon relents. Losing his strength, Walter goes hunting and happens to find a strange plant, which he starts to eat. This has properties which allows him to resist Brunhilde's power. So he found that good kush. he found that wacky tobacco out there that protects him from vampires. And he remembers the sorcerer's offer of help. He hastens to the place appointed, where he finds the sorcerer waiting for him, who conducts him to a cave and tells him that he will have to remain there until the new moon. Brunhilde finds him there but cannot reach him due to the sorcerer's spells. When the new moon arrives, the sorcerer travels with Walter to the castle and gives Walter a dagger, which he uses to stab her through the heart, and at the same time swearing to renounce her forever, which returns her to death. The sorcerer tells Walter that if he ever thinks of Brunhilde intentionally, she will return again. He thinks of Swanhilde and travels to seek her forgiveness, but she refuses on learning of her children's death. Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think that would really work out. Returning home, Walter meets a woman who strongly resembles Swanhilde, and he allows her and her group to stay with him. He puts on a lavish feast over several days and finally proposes to marry her. She accepts, but on their wedding night, she transforms into a serpent and crushes him to death. Wait a minute, what? Wait, excuse? Wait a minute. Wait a fucking minute. Wait. No one expects the marriage service. That's like an anvil being dropped on his head. Like, what? That's so unexpected. Okay, this is a story about a guy who cannot let go of his dead wife, brings her back, she's a vampire, he chooses to kill her, and then he tries to go see his second wife again, and his second wife is like, no, absolutely not. I'm not touching your wiener again because you're stupid. Because you're a stupid dumbass moron who tried to bring back your dead wife. And he's like, oh, okay, bye. And then he leaves, and then he goes back home, and he sees another girl, and he's like, yo, that girl looks like my second wife, and actually, I love my second wife more now. She's cooler. I actually liked her more all along. And then, like, as soon as they're about to shack up, boom, giant snake. It's like the universe is just going like, no, 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 we're not doing this again. We're not going through the same story a second time there, Walter. I saw that. You get you get crushed by this. Get crushed by the serpent. Get crushed by the serpent, idiot. Oh boy. All right. I am so hungry. I'm really hungry. So I think we'll go ahead and call it there for tonight. Thank you everyone. Thank you everyone for coming. This was really fun. I'm glad I opted to do another stream. I don't know if I'm honestly, I think doing these like super like regularly, like twice a week. I don't know. I think that might have been more creatively draining than I really thought it would be. I don't know. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll make it like a Sunday. So I don't know. Maybe I'll make it more like a once a week, or I don't know, just when I feel like it. We'll see. I'll make my announcements when I do my streams. My funny little read streams. But for now, have a good night, everybody. Have a good night. Happy to have you all. If any of the raiders are still here, thank you for coming to check me out. Thank you for any new follows. And I hope you all have a good night. Have a good night. Okay? All right. Okay. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. 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 Hooray. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.